All right, what is going on? Drive time, Thursday afternoon. We're looking at about 13 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. It is another really warm, mild December Salt Lake City day outside. And as it is every single day, it's good to have you along for the ride. Spence Checketts behind the mic hosting the program today, as I do most every day. It's the name of the show after all. Porter Larson out and about on vacation. Olivia filling in, doing a great job as always. And we got a jam-packed, busy Thursday show for you guys today, live from the road home. Okay, so we do this every year, and I was thinking about this morning, going over some notes and going over just some of the memories I have of being here. This is year 19 for me here at the road home doing radio, both here at ESPN 700 and my old radio station as well. And it's one of my favorite things, if not my favorite thing, I get to do with this job all year long. So we're asking for your donations today, okay? So here's the number. I'm going to hit you guys with this pretty much all show long, both today and tomorrow. We will be back here tomorrow as well, so keep that in mind. Phone number to make a donation is 801-819-7300. Website is theroadhome.org/donate. You can always come in person. I always encourage that because you can actually see the faces. You can see the desperation. You can see the need. You can see the sadness. You can see the weight. And we're asking you to help out here at the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center. It's 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale. It's right off the exit, 7200 South exit. It's really, really easy to find. So I'll hit you with that address again. Come on by. We'd love to shake your hand, meet you, and say hello. And you can do some good this holiday season to donate to people experiencing homelessness at the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center, which is 529 9th Ave, 7300 South here in Midvale. Okay, so also, if you are in need of shelter tonight, you can dial 801-990-9999, and the team will direct you to where you can get out of the cold tonight. So come on by and do some good, or give us a call today and donate at 801-819-7300. That's 801-819-7300. All right, busy show on this Thursday afternoon, live at the road home. We have a lot to get to on the program today. Of course, we're one day away from the beginning of the CFP. Okay, so the college football playoff bracket will start to unveil itself coming up tomorrow. It's an in-state game between Notre Dame and Indiana. The Fighting Irish are a 7-point favorite as of now. Inclement weather seems to be the common theme among all of these games. Well, most of them, if not all of them. The exception is probably Texas Clemson down in Austin because, but 27 degrees at kick time, Notre Dame and Indiana in South Bend. It is supposed to be freezing in State College, where Penn State will welcome an SMU. SMU's average weather at kickoff all year has been 62 degrees. And looking like 26 degrees at kickoff coming up on Saturday. Triple header, Penn State an 8.5-point favorite. Aforementioned Clemson-Texas game down at DKR Texas Memorial Stadium. If you're hearing people yell in the background, some DJs get very, very aggressive, and they want to just yell the entire time. There's nothing we can do about it. Texas is a 12-point favorite in that game. It's Clemson-Texas, 2 o'clock. By the way, keep this in mind. SMU-Penn State on TNT. Clemson-Texas on TNT and Max. And then Tennessee-Ohio State on ABC and ESPN. So it is the modern day and age of consumption of both pro and college sports, where you need to have streaming options, you need to have linear options, and you need to kind of stay frosty. But a fun triple header of college football ahead. Bowl season has already begun and will continue, namely for Brigham Young coming up against Colorado in the Alamo Bowl. Should be a really, really fun one. Both BYU and Colorado seem to have indicated that their best players are going to play. Now, Colorado is a 4.5-point favorite. That line has swung the way of the Buffs a couple of different times. The over-under is a very healthy 54.5. And we're going to get to some BYU on the program today. Chase Roberts, will he stay? Will he go? Some comments from Chase today. And that Chase Roberts-Travis Hunter matchup should be a lot of fun. So college football on the program today. The latest on the transfer portal for the University of Utah. Nothing really all that news-worthy and noteworthy has happened since we said goodnight last night at 6 o'clock, but of course we'll update you on that. Pro Football Week 16 gets rolling tonight, Thursday Night Football. Don't forget, we are your home of the NFL here in this market. It is the Broncos, and it is the Chargers. The Chargers are a 2.5-point favorite. The over-under is 41.5, which is pretty low. Two really good defensive teams. with decent quarterback play, and if Denver wins, they lock in a playoff spot for the first time in a number of different years. So we'll get to a bunch of pro football, a bunch of college football on the show today. The Jazz are back in action. They're going to take on the Pistons tonight. Utah Hockey Club picked up a dramatic home win last night. They're on the road on Friday, taking on a really good team in Minnesota. BYU basketball in action on Friday against FAMU, but apparently Yegor Demin and Richie Saunders are hurt and will not play. Utes back in action Saturday, 4 o'clock on the Big Ten Network against Iowa. So a very good early preseason test for Utah men. Women will welcome in ASU to Salt Lake City coming up Saturday at 4. So a lot to do on the show today. Gordon Monson bats leadoff, my old buddy from the old show. Gordon will be here. I'm sorry if I'm cracking up. A little bit of inside baseball behind the curtains. Every time I'm here, I always get a kick out of the DJs that want to yell, so they're on your show instead of theirs. And that's going to happen all day today. So Gordon Monson will stop by today. Craig Bolerjack, TV voice of the Utah Jazz, rolls by as well. Richard Smith live on site here at the road home for an entire hour. Do a little sports court on the program today. Then Dennis Haysbert's going to join us. You might not know who Dennis is. We'll tell you who he is, what he is doing here in town. Very famous guy. So we're going to interview him later on as well. So, Thursday, live from the road home. Our first guest will be none other than Gordon Monson. But before we get to Gordon, courtesy of our good friends and your good friends too over at Standard Restaurant Supply, it is your one-stop shop for all of your tailgating needs. Visit them online or check out their great location right downtown Salt Lake City. It's time now for your opening tip. So I'm going to set the scene for a topic that I want to talk to all my guests about today, and it is culture building, and it's a little bit of a kind of rinse and repeat topic. Pretty much any sports talk radio host, or quite frankly, anybody who's in media talks about culture building in pro and college sports. It's no longer just pro sports, it's college sports. It's always been college sports, but it's different now, and we're going to talk about why. All right, so we're live today at the Road Home. I want to remind you, give us a call at 801-819-7300 or check out theroadhome.org/donate to give us a donation. $5, $10, whatever you can afford. You will do a lot of good here at the Road Home. But there's an article today from The Athletic about my New York football Jets. Okay? According to what The Athletic wrote, Woody Johnson, the owner of the New York Jets, is relying on the feedback of his teenage sons who play Madden for personnel decisions. This is a real thing. Apparently there was a trade on the table for Jerry Jeudy because Denver was going to move off of Jerry Jeudy, who, by the way, has killed it in Cleveland despite having to deal with a couple of different quarterbacks. Woody Johnson did not like the Madden rating of Jerry Jeudy, according to what his sons told him, so therefore they did not make the trade. Okay, and so this is not a Jets topic. Okay, it just made me think about, as a Jets fan, how this culture has bred pathetic football for so long. They haven't been to the playoffs in 13 years. Every time they have somebody who appears to have some potential, they just blow it up and they screw it up. Sam Darnold, who's killing it this year in Minnesota. Even Geno Smith, who's had a good year in Seattle. And I guarantee BYU fans forever and ever and ever will talk about what Zach Wilson's career could have looked like if he did not land with, and I say this as a fan, the most dysfunctional franchise in all of pro football. And it's been that way for a long, long time. And so, unfortunately, when the owner is just the guy in charge, because we follow the golden rule here on the drive, here on the show. You guys know the golden rule. Say it with me out loud. The man with the gold makes the rules. Ultimately, it's been Woody for a long, long time. People that know Woody Johnson say he's a sweet man, and that's great. He's a horrible football owner, And, you know, there are a bunch of different examples of this, and namely, marrying himself to Aaron Rodgers, because at this point with the Jets, you have Garrett Wilson, who apparently wants out. You have Woody Johnson, who's listening to his sons when they played Madden affect personnel decisions, and you're married to a quarterback who just released a 4-part documentary on Netflix where he's just crushing shrooms and revealing himself to be a total ass. And that's what it is. By the way, teenage sons of Woody Johnson, their names are Brick and Jack. It sounds like an FM rock show. Kind of interesting. But I wanted to kind of spread this out topically, do a couple of different things here locally, because right now I find ourselves to be a really interesting crossroads with the Utah Jazz. Okay, so if you're a longtime Jazz fan, you know that for years and years and years, the Jazz had one of the more enviable cultures in the entire NBA. That's not hyperbolic. Okay, when Greg Popovich was inducted to the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame, he talked about when he took the job with the Spurs, he wanted to build the Spurs the way Jerry Sloan built the Jazz. And Greg Popovich built a dynasty over the course of 6, 7, 8 years with Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker, multiple titles, multiple NBA finals runs. And because of that era of Spurs basketball, I've never bought into the whole, like, it's not possible here in Utah. Because San Antonio, comparable market to Salt Lake, and honestly speaking, if you've ever been to San Antonio, Salt Lake's a better city. I'll live here all day, every day. But market size is pretty similar. The ownership stuff was pretty similar between the San Antonio ownership and the way the Millers kind of approached everything. And yes, the Jazz never wanted. For the better part of 2 decades, this was one of the best cultures, coaching, playing, front office in the entire league. You can ask anybody around pro basketball. Back then, David Stern is the commissioner. I referenced the Spurs, the synergies there. Charles Barkley often talked about Coach Sloan. And really, we should stop here and give a lot of the credit to the culture that was basically built and the foundation that was laid by the Layden family, Frank and Scott Layden, and then Frank giving it over to Jerry, and then Jerry took it to places that a lot of people never thought it could be taken to here in Salt Lake City, on the precipice of pro basketball championships on a number of different levels for a number of different years, not just 97, 98. Those teams in the 90s had 4 or 5 championship-level teams. Michael Jordan ripped rings off a lot of people's fingers, including Patrick Ewing, including Charles Barkley, including John, Carl, and Jerry, including my father. That was just kind of the deal in the 90s. If you ran into Mike at that time, he was going to kill you, slit your throat, and watch you bleed out. Sorry if that's graphic. But it's undeniable that the stewardship of the Millers for 2+ decades built one of the most incredible cultures and enviable cultures in all of pro basketball. It also led to winning. It also led to winning at a very high level. It never led to a championship, but it led to a lot of long playoff runs, some NBA Finals appearances, Western Conference championships, division championships, 50-plus win seasons, 60-plus win seasons, and some of the most precise, precision-based basketball that I've ever seen in my entire life. Which leads me into where we're at now with the new era of the Utah Jazz. A new ownership group led by Ryan Smith and his investors. A new front office led by Danny Ainge and his staff. A new coaching staff led by Will Hardy and his staff. A new group of players, I guess, led by Lauri Markkanen, maybe Walker Kessler, and who knows. And it's just undeniable that for 3.5 years now, as we look back on Ryan's early tenure, that the results aren't great. And we don't really have a clear direction. I'm not just talking about wins and losses, because there are several layers to this conversation. And I want to be clear, we're going to explore all those levels today. We're going to talk about exactly what you have to do to roster construct in 2024 that's different than it was in 1997. I want to be fair here. I never want to take shots. I want to be fair here. The way that Danny and Justin and this front office has to go about roster construction is a little bit different than you had to back in the day. But there are also a number of similarities. And, again, in the name of fairness, you got to get lucky. You got to get lucky. I don't even think Frank Layden would tell you he thought Carl was going to be Carl, John was going to be John. I don't think Dennis Lindsay would tell you in an honest moment he thought Donovan would be Donovan and Rudy would be Rudy. But we had those players, right? Maybe Kevin O'Connor saw something in Darren that allowed Darren to be one of the best lead guards in pro basketball here for about 4 years. But you do have to have a little luck. But as of right now, if you analyze who these draft picks have been over the first couple of years, Walker feels like a win, and that's about it. Where you at on Keontae? Poor Taylor goes down for an injury. Cody, G League, Isaiah G League, Kyle Filipowski, moments here or there, but there are no success stories as of yet on this roster as it pertains to the talent that's been drafted. And hopefully it changes because, like I said, this is 3.5 years in, and we have, 25 years-ish of the Millers' stewardship. And so they needed time and space. Larry, as a young owner, needed to learn how to do it, and he did, and he was great at it. And we miss leaders like Larry in this market who at least was front-facing, transparent, and honest, as opposed to clandestine and trying to do things behind the scenes and then sending you a message publicly that really doesn't tell you exactly what's going on, leading to a lot of questions. All we can analyze is the product on the floor. And before we catch a break, in the Jazz 50-year documentary, Will Hardy turned to the camera and said, "These aren't your grandfather's Utah Jazz." My question to you, Will, is who are you? Who are the Utah Jazz then? You're not winning. You don't have exciting young talent. There are a ton of questions. So if you tell us that you're changing things, we're going to watch to see if you change it for the better because the results so far have just not been good. Gordon Monson would be good on this today. We're going to bring Gordon in today right off the top. Want to remind you that we're live today at the Road Home. Okay, doing some good this holiday season. Asking for your donations. A couple of different ways you can do it is dial 801-819-7300. That's 801-819-7300. You can also go to the website, which is theroadhome.org/donate. Come on by in person to the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center at 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale. Just put that in your GPS. Now, if you are in need of shelter tonight, you can also call, and they'll direct you to where you can get out of the cold. Give them a call at 801-990-9999. That's 801-990-9999. All right, Gordon Monson, our first guest, right out of the gates on a Thursday. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. Broadcasting live today. 19th year out here at the Road Homes. Thinking about that this morning. We are asking for your donations to help families in need. The Road Home operates 80% of our community's year-round shelter beds. I'll tell you more about the spot out here, the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center. It serves up to 300 individuals with families nightly. So here's how you donate. $5, $10, whatever you can do. No amount too small. 801-819-7300. That's 801-819-7300. You can also go to theroadhome.org/donate. Our next guest used to come out here with me every year. It's been a minute. Gordon Monson back on the drive on a Thursday. Gordon, happy Thursday, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks, Spence. I'd say the Road Home is always close to the heart. You know, I mean, anybody who goes out there and sees the work that's done, I think would be happy to open the wallet.
No doubt, and I always have these memories because back in the day, they don't do this anymore, but back in the day they used to have like a competition among the stations as far as who could get the most donations, and I think they saw that was probably a little bit cringy to do, so we don't do it anymore. But back in the day, we used to be neck and neck with some of the bigger stations, and because your buddy, Spence Checketts, would roll in last minute and write a big check and give us credit, we always shot to the top of the list. So I was kind of, remember those days back in the day, Gordo?
I do remember those days. It was kind of like, it was a friendly competition, and we knew Spence was coming in with the big hammer, and so that always gave us a big boost. So we were grateful to him, and he used to bring like his entire family down. And I have great respect for him for that.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, Gord, I want to start with you where I started the show today, because I think you'll be good with this. And the sports talk radio or the sports columnist topic of culture building is not new and sometimes probably hit over the head a little bit too much. But there's an article today in The Athletic about my hapless, hopeless, pathetic New York Football Jets. And if you think it's bad, it's even worse when the owner is enlisting the advice of his sons based off their Madden video game experience to make personnel decision. They have not been to the playoffs in 13 years. They've married themselves to an idiot who wants to go on Netflix and just smash mushrooms instead of actually be a serious person. It is bad. And so I was thinking about this today from a local standpoint, Gordon, about the culture that the Millers built in, 25-ish years owning and operating the Utah Jazz. And even though it never led to an NBA championship, it was one of the healthiest and most enviable cultures in all of pro basketball. When Greg Popovich took the job with San Antonio, he said, I want to build it the way Jerry built, the Utah Jazz. And look, I'm not saying what Ryan has done so far is either good or bad. We don't know. But it is different over the course of 3.5 years. Larry, you knew him well, was front-facing, authentic, and honest. Ryan seems to prefer to do a lot of his business behind the scenes and in more of a clandestine way that leads to a lot of questions. And then we'll get a occasional puff piece from his PR team that they give to ESPN. But we don't really know this group the way that we all knew the Millers. And again, I want to be clear. It's not good or bad. It's just different. But from your seat, the way the Millers built this thing up over the course of 25 years, juxtaposed to the way that Ryan approaches it and his group over the course of about 3.5.
Well, when it comes to culture, and you bring up the Jets, I mean, it's not who you say you are, it's who you are.
Right.
That's what builds the culture, right? And I have great respect for Larry and for his, it's funny because, and you used to talk to him all the time, and he would say things that you would think, okay, that's unusual for an owner to say, but you knew where it was coming from. It was coming from deep inside that vast brain of his. And he was honest in what he said. And I think there is a great blessing to that kind of transparency, even though every once in a while you might hear something you don't like. Ryan, I still haven't figured out, to tell you the truth. When he first came in, I sat down with him, and we talked for maybe an hour and a half or so, and I did a big kind of lifetime feature on him. And when I do that, I usually feel like, okay, I have a pretty good idea who this guy is. I'm still not sure about Ryan Smith. I'm not quite sure who he is, and maybe those who are closest to him know that. But based on what we've seen, certainly out of the culture that's being built with the Jazz, that's a big old question mark right now. I mean, we've seen what's happened with that team. You and I have watched it closely, and we have asked questions, and we're still asking questions. You know, if they were going to tank, why didn't they tank a long time ago? It's really, your options are limited in the NBA, as you know, Spence, when it comes to rebuilding. You don't have a lot of choice unless you get extremely lucky. And the Jazz have sent mixed messages that way. And so if that's what you mean by building a culture, I think what Ryan has built is very much in question there.
Yeah, and also I want to follow up because I want to be very fair here, and you bring up a really good point because, and we're going to discuss this throughout the course of the show, there is a little bit of a different approach with the modern day and age of roster construction. What Danny and Justin are tasked with is a little bit different than what Scotty Layden was tasked with or Kevin O'Connor or Dennis Lindsay, but you bring up the luck portion. And not even Frank Layden himself, God bless the legend, would tell you that he knew John was going to be John and Carl was going to be Carl. Kevin O'Connor, I doubt, knew that, Darren was going to be, well, maybe Darren because he was like a top 3 guy. But Dennis Lindsay has said to me, and you as well before, no idea Donovan was going to be Donovan and Rudy was going to be Rudy. The O'Connor stuff is different because he drafts Darren early. He hits on that. He signs Booz and O'Curran, so that's a great group, and Kevin did a hell of a job. But you referenced the luck portion, and as of right now, what we have, as far as the 3-year sample size of talent that has been acquired via draft, I think Walker Kessler is probably the best news. But if you go down the list, Taylor Hendricks is hurt. Keontae George looks like he's miscast. Bryce Sensabaugh, unclear if he's even a rotational piece. Kyle Filipowski, a couple of things here or there. Isaiah Collier, nothing really. Cody Williams is in the G League. And all we have as far as the data so far is that the team has not won anything even close to, a high-level type situation. They're not close to the postseason. And, Gordon, there's an argument to be made that there's like one young player on the team that provides consistent hope to the point that you think he's a rotational player. So the luck, or whatever you want to call it, that potentially Frank and Scott had with John and Carl or Dennis had with Rudy and Donovan has not manifested itself so far. But is it only luck, or is it a failure to do your job as a talent evaluator?
I think it's a little bit of both, and as was the case when I did the show with you for all those years, I can't say it any better than you just did. I think you put a wrap on it perfectly, and I think that is an issue. It's funny you bring up Frank. I remember Frank saying, hey, if we knew these guys, Stockton and Malone, were going to be as good as they ended up being, we would have moved up to draft them. They did not know, but they did get lucky. And when I talked to Phil Johnson about this, I'll never forget what he said. He said he hit the luck word hard. And I do believe there is a part of that. But in a market like ours here, and this may or may not be fair, it isn't fair. Let's come right out and say it. You've got to be smarter than the rest of the guys. You've got to be smarter in order, because you can't make up for your mistakes by being a destination team. And so these guys have to get their picks right. There is talent available later in the draft, as Mr. as the Joker himself in Denver has proved that there is talent out there. It's just hard to get, and the Jazz have to be smarter. They have to be smarter than they've been, both from a philosophical standpoint and from a selection standpoint. Everybody praised them when they got all the draft picks for Rudy and all this stuff. And okay, but what are the draft picks turning into, Spence? Not so great so far, as you pointed out. So, I mean, I know there are those on the inside who say that what the Jazz were with Donovan and Rudy, it wasn't going to work moving forward. Well, it would have been a whole lot better, a whole hell of a lot better to keep those guys than what we've seen over the last couple of years.
And I also want to make one more thing clear for people that are listening that maybe work over at the old spot. I love the Utah Jazz. In this job, you have to be agnostic, and Gordon, you taught me as much as anybody did about that. I care about the Utah Jazz. I want nothing more than in 5 years from now and again, I want to be clear about today. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just different. But I want to be proven wrong. And if the starting front court, Gordon, in 3 years is Larry Markkinen, Cooper Flagg, and A.J. DeBanza, all eat some crow, okay?
Happily so, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, away from that for a moment, over to some college football. Since you and I last spoke, Isaac Wilson, who hit the transfer portal to potentially look at playing at other places, ends up back where he started. And I got to say, Gordon, I give him a lot of credit for wanting to compete. I got to be clear here. I do not know what the status is of his knee. We got to remember that he hurt his knee. And so will he be ready to compete come spring ball? I'm not sure. And it does feel like Devin Dampier is going to be the starting quarterback no matter what. But what are your thoughts on Isaac entering the transfer portal and essentially deciding to come back to play for the Utes?
Well, let me start a little broader than that, and I'll get to that specifically. But what did Kyle say at the end of the season? He said essentially, hey, man, we're going to go out and we're going to sign a bunch of guys. We're going to get a bunch of guys. What did he say? I think he said they were looking to get 40-some guys, and half of those would come through the transfer. What are they at now, about 10? And so they are changing it up because Kyle sees the need to do that. You compare that with, like, BYU. What has BYU gotten so far in the transfer? One? I think they've gotten one new guy, and it came from Utah, Brian, the tight end.
Yep.
So the Utes are going about their business exactly the way, I don't forget everybody they wanted to, but they're doing what Kyle said they would do. As far as Isaac Wilson goes, Isaac is a really interesting case. I'm not sure, Zach Wilson was crazy for football. And I hope I'm not misstating this, but I'm not sure that Isaac Wilson is crazy for football the way his brother was. That's just the way it seems to be with the whispers I've heard around him. Does he have talent? Yeah, he has talent. He has a live arm. And, I like guys who are willing to compete for their job. Everyone's making a big deal over this Dampier guy. And Kyle has always talked about the usefulness of a dual-threat quarterback. But can Isaac Wilson be that? I don't know. I don't think he's as good as Zach was, but I think he's got a live arm, and I think he's a decent athlete. Is his care factor crazy for football? I'm not sure of that. I'm not convinced of that either. But what we saw this last season isn't really fair to him, I don't think. You don't just throw a kid in like that right near the beginning of the season and expect him to be completely polished. So you wait and see. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a whole lot more of Isaac Wilson at Utah.
So according to the data I have in front of me, 10 additions to the transfer portal from the Utes so far. Cameron Calhoun announced that he's headed to Alabama, which is a big-time gut punch. And there are a bunch of other players still in the transfer portal that have not landed in a spot. You referenced Carson Ryan, who's headed to Brigham Young. And then we'll get to the BYU side of this in just a moment. But, Gordon, I haven't talked to you about the dynamic. I mean, it's a statement and a testament to the power of the game of college football and the product of college football that a business that is run by a confederacy of dunces continues to bring in the consumer numbers that it does. I can't believe that the transfer portal is open when coaches are trying to win national championships. Can you imagine if the NFL playoffs are about to start and Lamar Jackson was like, yeah, I'm out, just so you know. Like, it's beyond stupid. And it's even dumber that the idiots in the room haven't done anything about this. And every time I feel horrible for these coaches that are in the 12-team CFP or even in the Alamo Bowl like Brigham Young that have to run a practice and then finish practice and go to damage control to make sure their players are going to actually play for them. Like, what's your thought on this dynamic of essentially having free agency during the season?
Yeah, it's chaotic. They need to do something about that. And at least the teams that are in the college football playoff have something to play for. I mean, when Deion Sanders said that his stars were going to play against BYU in the Alamo Bowl, I mean, a lot of people were shocked by that. That's what he said. We'll see if it actually happens that way. But with these bowl games being I don't want to call them meaningless, but it seems like that's what they've turned into, unless you're in the playoff. I mean, if I'm a player, I may be looking out for my best interest in front of the team's interest if you're playing in the Tidy Bowl down in some small town in the South somewhere. But I agree with you. I mean, look, you can find some way to organize this, and there's a whole lot of organizing that needs to take place in college football and college basketball, for that matter, these days. And maybe revenue sharing will help that, but it's not going to solve it. And with all the things that are out there that are about to be added to the college game, with more money pouring in, it's like you said, Spence, it's like the fools are getting richer and richer because there's more and more money being invested.
All right, over to the BYU side of things. According to the data I have in front of me, maybe I should just ask Criddle here. Is Chase Roberts coming back? Okay. I've got a BYU host next to me. I should just tap into his knowledge. 11 BYU players in the portal as of now. The one player they picked up was Carson Ryan. But Chase Roberts did some media after practice and it said he's going to announce his intention via social media this week. You know, we have this really fun matchup with Chase against Travis Hunter coming up in the Alamo Bowl that we all kind of want to watch. And Chase, I loved what he said this week. He said, I'm going to find him and follow him, so he has to cover me. So that's kind of the white whale out there right now. BYU, again, one addition, 11 players have left, and we're waiting on Chase Roberts. But you know Kalani well. How do you think he's traversing? Because they're not in the CFP, but it's an awesome bowl game. They're going to get like $6 million, I think, as a payout, and Kalani's got to deal with the same stuff with a game coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, a lot of people are wondering where are all the transfers for BYU. Well, BYU had a pretty good year. I don't know if the need is as great for them as it is for some other teams to make a whole lot of moves. But Chase Roberts is a guy you've got to hold on to. If this guy sticks around, he's going to be, in a very strong receiving core, he's going to be the star.
Yep.
The star. They will utilize him in a way that they utilized him a lot this last year. Nothing compared to what he'll be next season if he stays at BYU. And if I'm Jake Retzlaff, I'm talking to him saying, hey, Chase, I'll give you the ball every other down. Come on back because I need you to come back. And I kind of agree with Ben. I think he will come back, but we've all been shocked before. But he's a clutch receiver. He's got great size. He's a guy that I think can improve his draft stock if he sticks around.
So it was announced, I don't think I talked to you about this, and of course it's BYU, so we don't know all the details. Kalani given his extension. And, you know, I was thinking about this, and because you know him well, I want to get your thoughts on it. The one job I think Kalani might leave BYU for is USC. And Lincoln Riley's buyout is like $70 million or something like that, which is just insane. That's the nature of college football coaching. And, again, Kalani just got extended. But do you think if that job came open and the powers that be at Southern Cal decided to call down to Provo, Kalani answers the phone?
Yes, he answers the phone. I'll say it this way, and I'm not going to quote Kalani in any way here, but I do know him well, and I think he's been somewhat pissed off about the amount that he's gotten in the past. I do not know the details of this particular extension. My guess would be that it was enhanced substantially. But I'll go back and quote what Norm Chow said many years ago when I was talking to him. And, of course, he was the offensive coordinator down at Troy. He said, quote, USC gets what USC wants. And, so I think Kalani would pick up the phone and see what that is all about. Although SC right now, I mean, that's not the USC that I remember. They seem to be in some of a pile of turmoil right now. They have players who are abandoning that program. And so if I'm the powers that be at USC, I would be very interested in a guy like Kalani Sitake. They need to do something because what they're doing right now is very much hanging in the air.
Gordo, I got to say, I got your family Christmas card in the mail last night, so thank you so much. Everybody looks like they're thriving and doing well. So I'll set you loose, but happy holidays to you and Lise and the girls, and, only love from this direction to you guys. Hope you know that.
Well, they do know that. And there's nothing but admiration in our family for you. And, I'll say that on a professional level and on a personal level. Nothing but love in this direction, too, Spence. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, Gordo, happy holidays. My man Gordon Monson from the Salt Lake Tribune, my longtime radio partner. We're live today at the Road Home. Hope I say this correctly. Keegan Kalkman, right?
Yes.
Hey, we're going to try that again. I usually have an engineer. but I'm doing all this myself, and I'm the wrong guy to do this. Let's try that again.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, there we go. Keegan, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks again for having us out. I was referencing earlier, this is my 19th year doing this.
Wow.
And a couple of different stations, my 6th here back at this station. So I love what we do here. It's one of my favorite projects, that the station allows us to do. What do you want our listeners to know right out of the gates?
Oh, gosh, you guys, just donate, donate, donate. We need it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
What do you do here, Keegan? What's your role?
I'm the supportive services manager here, so
Okay.
I oversee all of our case managers who are working with our families to get people into housing out of their homeless situation.
So here's what you do. You dial 801-819-7300. You can go to theroadhome.org/donate. So I guess I'll ask you this, Keegan. What were our listeners' donations? What do you guys do with the money?
So the money, it goes to the nonprofit as a whole, and from there we distribute it out to all of our different programs. Our physical donations, they go to all of our different warehouses at our different shelters. But ultimately, at the end of the day, all of these donations, they make their way to the clients, and they make their way to the people who need it most.
Physical donations, what are you guys looking for this year?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I work at the family shelter, so we're always looking for diapers. We're looking for kids' clothes. We're looking for coats, especially this time of year. We're looking for that sort of thing. In addition to that, we also always need socks and underwear. Those are the things that seem to run out the fastest and are the things that people need most.
Right on. And give me a quick, I don't know if it's a list or wherever, if people want to physically donate the items instead of call, where's the best place to drop them off?
The best place to drop them off is here at 529 West 9th Avenue, Midvale, Utah. That's where we're doing our donation drive right now. We're taking donations today until 7 p.m.
Keegan, great to meet you, man. Thanks for stopping by. All right, Keegan Kalkman here at the Road Home. Come on by in person at 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale. You can also call if you're not able to get out here at 801-819-7300. The website is theroadhome.org/donate. Also, if you're in need of shelter tonight, good news for you. They've got a spot for you. All you have to do is call 801-990-9999. That's 801-990-9999. 99. All right, 1 hour down, 3 hours to go. The big hour, the big show, big hour on the drive continues next with the great Craig Bolerjack. So keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, I got Smitty live on site coming up from 3:30 to 4:30 today, so we'll call that about 20 minutes from right now or so. And we are live today at the Road Home, asking for donations at 801-819-7300. Donate a little cash that way if you want to donate some gently used goods, items like coats and beanies, as well as socks and gloves. Come on by the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center at 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah. Our next guest, you know him, you love him, is the TV voice of the Utah Jazz. Live in the Motor City, Craig Bolerjack, I believe, is where we find you, sir. How are you?
Hey, Spence, I'm doing well. Actually, you just caught me in the media press room at Little Caesars Arena, so Big T just went back for his third helping, so that's kind of the night we're having.
There you go. There you go. And you know what? You got to at least enjoy the food, Craig, because the basketball is probably not going to be awesome. Let me say that.
Let me just say this. I'm filling up and getting an extra dish of soft serve, if you know
okay.
Soft
yeah,
serve
I do.
Gets me through the day.
I love it. I love it. All right, I want to start with you today on a topic that we've talked about throughout the show. I started the show with it. I brought Gordon in with it last segment. And, you know, it's the oft talked about, written about culture building in professional and now college sports. It's different in college than it used to be, but there's an article today in the New York Times / The Athletic about Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, my hapless, hopeless, pathetic New York Jets, who apparently has been utilizing feedback from his teenage sons who play Madden to make personnel decisions, right? And so this is not a Jets topic, but the Jets culture has been sour for like 13 years. They haven't made the playoffs forever. And I was just thinking about our local products here, and you've had a front row seat to what the Millers built over basically 25 years of a ownership, stewardship type situation with the Jazz, and now a front row seat on 3.5 years of Ryan Smith and his group owning the Jazz. And these things take time, right? And the Millers built what was one of the most enviable cultures in all of professional basketball from a front office standpoint, with the Ladens, Kevin O'Connor, Dennis Lindsay, from a coaching standpoint with Frank and Jerry, and I could keep going, personnel, broadcasters, everything. And the team won a lot of games. They never won a championship, but they won a lot of games. Are there similarities between what the Millers built and what Ryan is trying to build? It feels like he's doing his own thing, and I want to be clear, it's not either good or bad because it's early, but the early returns are a little bit different than what the Millers built. You have been and still are behind the scenes for both iterations of Jazz ownership. Similarities, differences, Craig, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a great question, Spence. I was here in '85, the same summer they drafted Karl Malone, and all of a sudden things changed, right? And you got to hit. They already had Stockton. They had my partner Big T in '83, Stockton '84, Karl Malone in '85. So, you know, what you hope is that the similarities continue, that the draft picks Danny and Justin have made develop and blossom quickly. And so far we have not seen that, but you hope in a very short period of time that it will. I think Walker's made improvement this year. Hendricks now is behind this proverbial 8 ball just because of the injury and his status, Spence. We may not see him until January of 2026, depending on, you know, his outcome in his rehab. So he's behind schedule, and Keontae is just trying to make his way through every game as he matures. And you know what? Again, are the question marks out? Absolutely. You lose by 37 on the road in L.A. against kind of an aging team, and they didn't even have Kawhi, by the way, and Paul George has moved on, and Harden lit up the Jazz for 24 in the first quarter, Spence. So I get it. There's concern, absolutely. And you have to think that year 3 is where you start to see some of this stuff begin to blossom, as I say, players. I think Will Hardy's all in. I don't have any question with Will at this particular point in time. But again, I think defense still is where you talked a lot about and what we've discussed on previous shows. When does this team finally get it on how to play team defense, transition defense? And at shoot-around this morning, again, that was the commonality of the entire hour and 15 minutes was defense. And I'm just waiting for the light to go on to see these guys play as one. We've seen some trickles in the 5 wins they've had in the first 25. There's been a couple of nights you go, wow, this is how it could be? Or are these guys maturing and finally, you know, finding their way? And it's like the proverbial 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And I think that's the biggest issue for fans, you know, is that They've got hockey to look at, and they're playing pretty well. Got an OT win again last night. But Spence, the Jazz used to be the dominant pro team in Salt Lake City, and that included college football, basketball, even when Majerus was up on the hill. But it's kind of a time where you wonder where this team's going, and I'm along for the ride, as is Big T and our new sideline reporter Lauren Green. We talked about it a lot, and I think defense is going to have to be the most. For me, I think that's the biggest focus that has to be looked at right now. Can this team play defense as one, and do you have anyone that can really be a shutdown wing defender? Development continues, but sometimes people get a little anxious. Absolutely.
And ultimately, as you referenced the moments that we see with this roster, the difference between hope and consistency is showing up every night and doing the things that we see occasionally all the time, right? When the consistency seeps in, that's when a promising young team turns into a team that actually can win at a high level. And consistency in pro basketball comes with age for 99% of players that enter the league. It's like I had a dentist appointment this week, and it was my 6-month checkup. Went in, had the x-rays, did the cleaning. Dentist said, "You're good to go. I'll see you in 6 months." I'm like, "Sweet, don't have to come back in." And he said, as you age, you just develop better habits. And it's just like basketball. As you age, you just develop better habits. So right now, the moments we're seeing, somehow, some way, whether it's will or talent acquisition and addition, have to become consistent night in and night out, or the teams keep getting their heads kicked in because they're playing against men that have better habits because they've been doing it longer. It might be as simple as that.
No, I like the analogy. I mean, congratulations on
Thank you, sir.
Checkup, man.
Thank you, sir.
But
Appreciate it.
When you check up on the Jazz, you do see some work that needs to be done, whether it's a cavity, a crown, or whatever.
Or 6 extractions.
But, this is where the data points that Danny and Justin Zanuck are using to determine. I go back to this comment that Will said earlier this season, that this league is tough, damn tough to play in and also to stick in. That means a long career. Some players come in, they stick, and they find their way as a starter, as an all-star. Others are role players and bench players. Who are the Jazz? Who are the players that stick? Who are the ones that depart? Who are part of trades? And who just falls down to the league, right? Spence, we've seen it for years. That's just the way this business works. And it's a big business, billion-dollar business, and you have to play at a high level to make rosters each and every year. And so these data points I speak of, the Jazz are very analytical in the way that they progress, how they proceed, I should say. And I think, all these numbers are beginning to kind of show, who these guys are, what they hope they can become. But you make a good point. Look, it's disappointing, absolutely. But, in that 3-year window, we see Walker Kessler make strides. Has Keontae gotten better than he did his rookie year? Yes. Can he get better? That's for Danny and Justin Zanuck to decide and look at the statistical numbers, but also who is he? I mean, how bad does he want to get to that next level? And that's about work during the season and off season as well. It's the same for Sensabaugh, same for Filipowski, and Colin Sexton, I think, is an improvement than the day that we got him. I think he's figured some things out too. And John Collins seems to have progressed this year, but I'm talking about vets. The Jazz are looking more long-term, Spence, to your earlier question. Is the Jazz, from what I understand, they want a larger window of opportunity to be in the postseason and become what Stock and Malone were able to do in their latter years. Now, the Jazz are lucky to keep those two guys side by side for such a long time. That's going to be a real key for this Jazz franchise moving forward. Who develops and who moves on? Hayward moved on. Donovan moved on. They traded Gobert as well. So, that to me are hard questions that they're going to have to answer and the money they spend and how much effort they put into development into these guys, and how keen of an eye does Danny Ainge and Justin have on those draft picks and the one they covet this year so much.
So before I set you loose, I know you got to catch a bus to your thing for the game tonight. I wanted to get a college football thought from you because when I was prepping for the show, kind of unwrapping this topic, I've always found it interesting. In the pros, your culture is set by your owner. It just is. Now, it is executed by several people from top to bottom, but it's set by the tone that is established by the ownership group or the singular family or figurehead. In college, it's the coaches, Craig, isn't it? Like the celebrities in college football and basketball are not the players. They're the coaches. It's the Tom Izzo's, Mike Krzyzewski's, Kyle Whittingham's, Nick Saban's. Like, it's an interesting difference, isn't it? In the pros, your culture is from the top to the bottom, started by the ownership. But in college, it does seem like hiring the right coach is the best way to build a better culture.
Oh, Spence, it's everything, because recruiting comes down to, hey, I'm playing for this guy. Now, look, I'm not foolish. I know that's changed some because NIL money is going to do a lot of talking as well, right? So that's going to be the most interesting part moving forward is how much does the money speak instead of who's coaching me, you know? And the transfer portal, I'm upset. I didn't get the reps I was promised or I thought I was going to get, so I'm going to transfer out. Man, Spence, things have changed since you and I were in college, man, because really the coaches were king. And you make a great point, Krzyzewski. Even during the days up on the hill, man, Majerus, you know, he wielded a big hammer and was able to do a lot of great things because of who he was and the success he had. But I'm concerned that it may change because money speaks. And am I right? Did I hear that Sacramento State is the new home of Cam?
So all I've seen is an online rumor, Craig. Maybe here's the problem: like, who online is credible these days? So I'm not sure as far as the person who sent that out that I am familiar with their work. So I've been trying to verify that, and nothing as of now.
Yeah, I did the same. Looked up the source, and I wasn't sure who that source would be. I don't know if that's just to float it out to get a rise out of Utah fans, but Spence, you and I are in a business now where what used to be fact is sometimes fiction, or you have to make sure before you report. That's a responsible way, and you're talking about a young man's future, whether he decides to go try his luck in the NFL or if he's just going to stay at the U. Who knows? But, you know, that's the craziness, though, that we're out there. All these rumors, the portal, and coaches' contracts. Some are giving money back because they don't succeed. I read that yesterday in USA Today. I find that intriguing that they're well paid to represent, but also they realize to keep their job, they may have to funnel some of their cash, their salary back into the NIL or back into just the athletic program. It's an interesting time. It's a crazy time.
It is for sure. And let me just say this person who sent it out, his Twitter handle is at BYU Fan A. And I just think this is a dude that is trying to troll Utah fans. So if we get anything official on Cam, I'm glad you brought it up because I should at least address it. If we get anything official on Cam, we'll bring it to you. But Bowler, thanks for the time, man. Have a great call tonight. Best of luck. Travel safe. Happy holidays, okay?
Appreciate you, pal. Have a great holiday. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, buddy. All right, we're live today here at the Road Home. Jake. Hey, Jake. Good to go. So we're live today here at the Road Home. We're going to bring on a guest to kind of tell you what we have going on here. Don't forget, Richard Smith is going to be live on site for an entire hour. I usually have a tech out here to help, but nobody's here. So I am trying to operate our Comrex, book guests, all by myself. It's no big deal. I'm a grown-up. I can handle it. Let's see if somebody stops by. They may not. In the meantime, I'll just remind you where we're at today. We're at the Road Home, okay? So family homelessness in the U.S. rose dramatically from 2022 to 2023, and families now represent more than 28% of the country's homeless population. So we're asking you to donate today, okay? Here's the number. It's 801-819-7300. That's 801-819-7300. Online at theroadhome.org. You can come by in person to the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center at 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah. Come on by and say hello. Richard Smith is going to be live on site in just a little bit. And we're joined here. Actually, you know what? I've got to do this one. I promise usually I have a tech, but I don't have anybody today. Is that Pauline? Is that the name?
That is it,
yes. How are you, Pauline?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm well. So what do you do out here at the Road Home?
I am the president of the board.
Jake, you brought me the boss. Okay, I've got to behave myself. Well, that's excellent. You know, I was thinking about this earlier, Pauline. This is my 19th year
Congratulations.
Well,
and thank you.
Certainly not about me at all, but it's truly one of my favorite things that we do every year at Broadway, at this station, at my old station as well. Ultimately, what has always struck me is how many families you guys help. You know what I mean? It's not just, and you also help single people that are homeless, but there's so many families, mom and dad, children that roll through here. Here's what I want to ask you. What is in place to help mom and dad get back on their feet and kind of help these families get whole again here at the Road Home?
Yeah, I mean, they're the one that need the most support, right? Because you've got to handle kids and jobs and so forth. So the biggest thing I feel we do, of course, we provide shelter. We provide a roof over their head and safety. But the second thing is case managers to help them reintegrate, get support, get additional governmental support, make sure that the kids are going to school, et cetera, and eventually get into a permanent home.
Yeah.
It's always the goal.
Yeah.
And that is so much safer, so much more stable for a family, for kids to be in their own home.
For sure. And the other thing I've learned about the Road Home in all my years doing this, people can be skeptical about nonprofits, and if I donate, is the money really going to where you say that it will? And here the money goes to where you say that it's going. People don't need to worry about that, yeah?
Absolutely. We get a 4-star rating every time. For our management of our finance, essentially every dime goes towards what we call programming, which is support of our clients.
For sure. Now, we're asking, of course, $5, $10, whatever people can give. What about physical donations this season? What are you guys looking for in that realm? Coats and such? Yeah.
Coats,
Yeah.
socks, always welcome. Brand new, much better, gently used, that's fine, but warm backpacks. We're always looking for kids to go back home when they enter into their home, they have nothing. So those kind of things, best way is to go on our website to get the full list of items that we need.
Very nice. And the website, by the way, is theroadhome.org/donate. Before I set you loose, Pauline, how did you get involved? What's your origin story of getting involved with the Road Home?
Yeah, I was working for an ad agency. I was the president of an ad agency, and I was looking about and saw people on the street and decided it was time for me to donate to my community. And the Road Home came to me, and I realized it's an extremely good organization. A lot of integrity, doing very, very good work, and always coming up with new ways to help our clients.
Wonderful. Well, pleasure meeting you. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
President of the board. Wow. Boss lady here at the Road Home. Come on by and say hi. You can give us a call if you want to donate that way. The phone number is 801-819. Pauline, good to meet you. Okay, have a good day. 801-819-7300. The website is theroadhome.org/donate. Come by in person at the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center at 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale. Richard Smith is standing regally in front of him. Talk a little culture building, a little football, we'll talk basketball, maybe a little tennis, maybe a little baseball. We'll get weird for an hour during the holiday season with my guy Richard Smith. Coming up next right here at ESPN 700. All right, live on site today, both today and tomorrow. Keep that in mind at the road home. Santa Claus is in the freaking building. What is going on? Santa is in the house. Look at that.
Come on.
Santa is here. So if you guys want to stop by and hang out with Santa, your timing is impeccable. The address is 529 9th Ave, 7300 South. I'll tell you what he's about to do because I've gone and seen it. He's about to go in and see if homeless shelter full of children. It'll tug at your heartstrings. If you've never been out here before, we're asking for physical donations of coats and blankets and anything form, new, gently used. We're also asking for financial donations of any kind at 801-819-7300, 801-819-7300, or online at theroadhome.org/donate. So Santa rolls in, as does Richard Smith.
See that? You see what happens?
Look at that.
I come as soon as I hear somebody has to come in and take whatever little thunder I have in my entrance.
Oh, is that the takeaway?
Take it all away.
Oh, ego of
There's
yours.
that Richard Smith right over in the corner. Get him out of the way. Santa comes rolling through, his belt jingling. He's got a perfect Santa suit on. If you didn't know who it was, he had a big wide belt that said Santa across the back, just in case you weren't sure who it was.
So instead of being excited that Santa's here for the kids, you're upset he's taking attention away from you.
No, I'm just observing that's literally whatever happens wherever I go, someone else goes, get him out of here. Come on, let's go.
Okay, fair enough. Smitty, good to see you, and how are things? Happy holidays.
Great, same to you, Spence, and I appreciate your invite to come out here and spend a little time with you on a Thursday at the road home. The people here do a great job. It's always fun out. Years that you've invited me to come out during this telethon to try and get some donations here, and I brought a couple home bags of clothes and stuff, and it's just a great work that the people here do. It's always fun to be a part of it at this time.
Smitty, I would encourage you, if you don't think you have items at home, my guess is you do if you clean out your stuff, like blankets and socks and gloves and hats and coats. You can drop them off in person out here at 529 9th Ave, 7300 South, or donate. Anything you can give this holiday season at 801-819-7300. Online at theroadhome.org/donate. All right, Smitty, let's start with what we were talking about off air, where you just came from, and then we'll get into some other topics that are certainly less important. And I did not know Cletus Woodbury well. I knew who he was. His father spent a number of years at the University of Utah. We had his brother at RSL, so I know the family. And, of course, I've heard the story just this time, well, any time of year, but this time of year, 3 kids, just 46 years old. Cletus gone far too early. Real punch for the community. A lot of people at the U knew him, loved him, and you were at the services today. Can you take us kind of inside what that was like?
Yeah, for our listeners who don't know, Cletus Woodbury, a great figure in the Utah Athletic Department, passed away this past week after incurring a seizure and spending time in the intensive care at the University of Utah, and ended up passing away and several days ago. And he was just a stalwart of the Utah Athletic Department. He was the guy. He was the consummate ticket guy. We ran the ticket operations there for many years. And as people spoke today at his services, he was. They all commented on the fact that Cletus was the guy who always figured out how he could help you, and to figure out whatever your ticket deal was. Or you were going to the Rose Bowl the last couple of years with the Utah football team, and people who needed tickets and wanted tickets, and he was always the guy who figured out how to get that handled. You went on the road somewhere, you were in Florida, you wanted to go Miami Dolphins game, call Cletus, I got a guy in Miami, yeah, let me call you back, and whatever. But he was just a great person to know. A great fixture in the Utah Athletic Department. Passed away this week at age 46. Leaves behind his lovely wife Lisa and their 3 kids, and a very sad day in the Utah community.
So I can send you guys to a GoFundMe that has been created for Cletus Woodbury. If you go to GoFundMe.com and just search for Cletus Woodbury, it's Cleadus. Woodbury spelled as you would expect. And then there's a picture of Cletus, his wife, and their 3 children. And we're asking for donations to take care of his family as he leaves them behind. Just, you hate to say the whole cliche, a reminder of how precious this trip around the globe is, or whatever, this trip on this blue marble, or whatever you want to call it. You hate to say that you need things like this, but out here at the road home, you see these families walking in with children. They don't know where they're going to sleep tonight. Cletus leaves behind a family of 3 kids. It just reminds you how precious this thing is.
Well, Spence, he's about your age, right?
Exactly my age, 46.
Yeah. So, and those of us who are older, I turned 70 earlier this year, and whether it's your age or you're getting closer to the end zone, so to speak, these are the things that you take stock in, and then you realize someone like him who has a young family, 3 teenage age kids, and he's right in the middle of it, just as you are, Spence, and you're looking forward to all these things that you want to do with your family and friends, and all the plans you make going forward in your life, and then all of a sudden it's you get this turn of events, and it's gone in the blink of an eye, and sometimes it sounds maudlin, and sometimes it sounds cliche, but as someone once taught me, it's cliche because it's actually true. That's the reality of life, and so you try and take stock in your friends and your loved ones as much as you can, and tell them you love them, and try and help wherever you can, anywhere in the community.
Yeah, well said. And obviously the University of Utah community is well known for taking care of its own. So head on over to that GoFundMe page for Cletus and support. It's funny how people come and go, whether it's death or just you change relationships, and you never know. Sometimes it's entirely unexpected. But Smitty, I've been talking about this topic today, and I was excited to see you on the rundown because I knew you'd be good with it. And this is not a Jets topic, but there is a new piece in The Athletic about Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, and how he apparently relies on the advice of his teenage children who play Madden, the video game, to make some personnel decisions. And according to The Athletic, and I like The Athletic, they do a good job, there was a trade on the table that the Jets would acquire Jerry Jeudy, who has killed it in Cleveland, but Woody said no because his kid didn't like his Madden rating. That in a vacuum is pathetic and laughable, but it is a microcosm of a horrible culture that has been there for a long time. BYU fans will always say Zach Wilson could have been something different if it wasn't the Jets. Sam Darnold's killing it in Minnesota. Geno Smith has had a good run in Seattle. Like, the Jets are continued by Kevin Ennis and plenty of others, name yourself and others that were on the support staff. Over the course of 25 years, it was built into one of the most enviable cultures in pro basketball. Greg Popovich talked often about his fondness of Jerry and wanting to build the Spurs the way Jerry built the Jazz. And I want to be clear, 3.5 years under Ryan, I'm not saying either good or bad. I'm saying I think we have enough data at our disposal to say different. And we'll see if it breeds something long-term that it hasn't been able to breed so far. But juxtaposed to the two approaches, you were under the Miller umbrella for a number of years. You saw it front row. How did they go about their business of building such a enviable culture, and what are we hoping that this early project of Ryan ultimately ends up looking like?
Well, the Millers came in, remember, Spence, in the mid-'80s, in 84, 85, 86, and bought the team from Sam Battistone, who was looking, and Larry Miller came in and grabbed them and saved them from moving. Really, they were about to move to either Minnesota or Miami at that time. And Larry literally came in, and to use a baseball axiom with Larry and his baseball affinity, came in the bottom of the ninth with 2 outs and hit and hit run but really the culture of the Jazz was, the foundation was laid when they first moved to Salt Lake City from New Orleans in 1979 with the hiring of Frank Layden as the general manager.
Yep.
And it was Frank who had to build up a team that was not a good team in New Orleans. They had been there for 5 years, an expansion team. The only thing they had to market at that time was a one-legged Pete Maravich. and they tried to do the best they could. But Pete only played a handful of games, in Utah, and was moved to the Boston Celtics, and he was at the end of his career because of injuries. But Frank built the team up in the 80s, block by block. It was Darrell Griffith in the 1980 draft as a number 2 pick. It was Thurl Bailey as a number 6 pick. It was Mark Eaton as a 4th-round pick. It was John Stockton as number 16. Karl Malone as number 13. It was year by year. And
just pause real quick. That's a phenomenal hit rate.
Yes. Well,
historically special hit rate. Sorry.
Yeah.
Continue.
He got
dawned on me.
And you throw in Bobby Hansen, who was a 3rd-round pick out of Iowa in that mix, and those are the guys that they brought in. But it was, a block-by-block building, Spence, and they came here 79. Frank took over. Then he took over as a coach and general manager in 82. And then it was 84 that they won their first division title.
Coach and executive of the year for Frank,
the only person who's ever done it in NBA history. And then 85 they draft Karl Malone. But these were all things, some of them were things that you say, okay, I'm a pretty smart guy. I knew that guy would be a good player. Okay. And some of it is, as I know you've talked about earlier, you have to be lucky, and other guys have said this, and people don't want to hear that because then it sounds like, well, then why are these guys running the show? It sounds like anybody can do it if you're just relying on anybody can go to Vegas and roll a 7 or whatever.
Yeah.
But what you have to have some kind of a game plan. You have to have some kind of consistency and willingness to stick to that, and the belief that what we're doing, we believe, makes sense. We think it's going to work out, but we just have to stick to our guns in terms of how we're doing it. The Jazz in the 80s did it block by block. They get John Stockton, who they pulled out of the draft at 16. Okay, they get credit for that, and Frank has often said, as I know Gordon Monson said earlier, on the air, that has often said, hey, if we knew John was going to be John, we would try to move up the top 5 to get him, because that's where we end up being, right? But then Karl Malone in that draft in '85, everybody in the league had Karl Malone slotted 5, 6, 7 in the draft. And for whatever the individual reasons are of all those teams between 5 and 12, they each passed on him. And then he ended up with the Jazz at 13. And I remember Scott Layden saying, and that was the John Stockton draft was the first one I was involved in directly, and the Karl Malone was the second. But I remember Scott saying to his dad, well, if Malone is there at 13, we just have to take him because he's the best talent that's there. And we just have to roll with that and see what that is. And then I remember Frank in the post-draft interview saying to the press, well, somebody asked him, do you hope Malone comes in and scores the way he was at Louisiana Tech? And Frank famously said, well, we have enough scoring. Okay, we have Darrell Griffith, we have Adrian Dantley, we have the 6th man of the year, John Drew, we have Ricky Green as more of a scoring point guard. What we need is someone to come in and get rebounds, because we're the 3rd worst rebounding team in the league. Okay, we're becoming competitive, but we need to shore up our rebounding, so we hope he does that and provides us some kind of big physical presence in post defense. If he scores 10 or 12 points a game, then that's a bonus, because we don't really need that. And how does it turn out, right?
One of the greatest scorers of all time.
35,000 points later or whatever it was. So that's the kind of thing that I know the current iteration of the Jazz and the new ownership group with Ryan Smith and Danny Ainge heading up the basketball operations, they're hoping that type of thing occurs and takes place. Some of that you can control. Some of it is stuff that you, in terms of your evaluation, some might be a move you make. Now, I know you referenced earlier Walker Kessler. Walker Kessler is an improving young big man. He wasn't a draft pick of theirs. He was technically a draft pick of Minnesota's.
Correct.
And then they traded him in the Rudy Gobert trade. And so the Jazz got him in a trade. They got Markkanen as part of the Donovan Mitchell trade. So they got him in a trade. So those are two guys that they like at the moment. Markkanen's shown he's an all-star level player. Kessler's getting better in his third year. Okay, maybe they got two guys. Now they got all the draft picks they've used the last 2 years. Smattering of results, good, bad, in between, something. That's still to be determined. Okay, nobody's jumped out like Karl Malone did. Nobody's jumped out like Donovan Mitchell did at the moment. Deron Williams, was an all-star level Olympian player for the Jazz for 6 years, but Deron Williams didn't start when he was a rookie. He came off the bench and he didn't like it. And Jerry didn't want to start it and wanted
I've heard
to
about
teach him
that situation
yeah.
somewhere.
Well,
yeah.
But his second year, but it made Deron, I think personally, a better player because Deron realized, well, they're not going to give me anything. I got to go get it.
Right.
And so his second year, he became a bona fide player. His third year, he was a cornerstone. Then with Carlos Boozer and Mehmet Okur and Andre Kirilenko and Ronnie Brewer, and those guys started getting it going. So that's what the current Jazz are hoping happens. It has not yet. Their guys have not shown up yet. But as the analogy we've used before, Spence, is like the prospector mining for gold in the river, and he puts his pan in the water, and he shakes it and gets all the sediment and rocks out and whatever, and he hopes there's a nugget of gold in there, and if there's not, then he puts his pan in the water again and tries it again, and that's what they're doing with the players now. So that's why you see players coming in, maybe playing weird rotations, maybe looking at stuff where guys are out of position, you don't like where they're playing, don't like how they're playing at that position, but that's where they're at the moment. They're experimenting to see, do we have anybody here that we can use going forward, that we can develop, and at some point they'll look at it and they'll say, that guy, we like some, we can keep working with him. That guy over there, we don't like him as much. It doesn't look like he's making any progress, and we're going to try and move on from him and just keep trolling in the river and trying to get guys in here who we think can help us move forward in the process.
Does Frank get enough credit for being a talent evaluator? Because the list you just, and I talk about this all the time, because Danny Ainge has a really solid draft track record that includes a lot of big-time hits and a lot of big-time misses, some who didn't play in the league.
Like everybody.
That's where I was going, and there's no exception to that. Dennis, who I think we all liked and respected, hit 2 massive grand slams, some other singles, and some guys that didn't work out. It's part of the deal. But the list you just ran off, we think of Frank as a great coach. We think of Frank as a great communicator. We think Frank as a great leader of men. We think of him as an entertaining, funny personality. Does he get enough credit for the way he evaluated talent for those early days? I don't know that he does.
Yeah, I think part of it, Spence, is that he tried to deflect how bad the team was in the early years by using his personality,
sure,
and his affability with the press and with the public to kind of deflect some of that stuff. He was a tough basketball master. You ask any of the players who played for him in terms of day-to-day in practice, demanding how they do certain things. That's why he brought in Jerry Sloan as an assistant coach. That's why he turned it over to Jerry Sloan in '89, because he felt like, hey, Jerry can do this better than I can. But Frank was very good at getting the most he could out of the players by understanding who they were and then playing to their strengths. But also the guy who doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion, during that time was a young Scott Layden, because Scott was in charge of the personnel. He was in charge of scouting. This was an age in the 80s when an assistant coach on the bench like Scott Layden also had like 5 other jobs in the organization.
Right.
And one of them for him was scouting and running the draft when each time when the spring came around. And so Scott was coaching, helping in practice, devising a game plan in practice, and then if they had an off day, getting on a plane at 3 o'clock and flying to Vegas or flying to L.A. or wherever it was to see a college game that night to do college scouting, because that's just how thin the staff was at that time. That's how I got involved initially, was to come in and try and help in terms of doing some of the college scouting and the personnel stuff in that regard. But Frank and Scott built the foundation, and they built that culture with the idea, with the Millers' consent, and with the foresight of saying we're going to do this the way we think is right, and we're going to do it step by step. We're not going to skip any steps in the process, and we're just going to see how we can do it. Now, you have that in place, and you follow that game plan, but you have to have, in this example, some other teams in the process that where things you were talking about getting lucky, right? We thought Karl Malone in that draft was going to go 5, 6, 7.
Right.
There was no way he was falling past Dallas at 7. That was our feeling, our evaluation, and talking to other teams around the league, as you always do in draft preparation. So Karl Malone gets drafted by Dallas. He has the career that he had here in Dallas.
Everything's different.
He's Nowitzki, right, in Dallas. But they don't. They take the Garnett kid from Wyoming. Then the team is picking 8. The team is picking 9. Picking 12 was Washington, who took Kenny Green out of Wake Forest instead of Karl. And so the Jazz end up with Karl at 13. There's a lot of those stories, Spence, around the league where teams said, I got this guy. If we can get that guy, we're going to grab him and he's going to be good for us. And, they don't get that guy because a team 3 picks in front of them took him. And so you never hear about, those guys had it wired. It's just that they didn't get to that guy to be able to exercise that pick and to show that they had done their homework and were on target. And so the Jazz were fortunate in those years. And the other part of that equation that people have heard before is that now you got 2 Hall of Fame players. They play together for 18 years, and 13 of those 18 years, neither guy misses a game. So they play 8 preseason games. They play 82 regular season games. They play in the playoffs every year. So you're talking about in the neighborhood of 100 games a year.
And it will never happen again.
This year, both your best players play every game. Next year, both your best players play every game.
Yep.
The next year, both your but.
Yeah.
That's so that's part of that luck process. Like, we got him. Who's the example now? Kevin Durant. Phoenix is like, I can't remember off the top of my head, 9-2 or something this year with Kevin Durant in the lineup. Mm-hmm. But when he's not in the lineup, they're like 2-10 or whatever it is. But he's in, he's out, he's hurt, he's got a ding, whatever it is. And that's, with a lot of guys who are like in and out of line. Bradley Beal, they're hanging a lot of money on him. And he's been in and out, because of injuries. And so those are the kind of things you have to have fall your way that are beyond your control. And anybody on the Jazz who says, we had special medicine and we had special medical knowledge and foresight to know that John Stockton was going to play every game every year and Karl Malone was going to miss 12 games in his 18-year Jazz career. And you go, come on, man, come on. That you can't plan for that.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you this, and we'll move on to some other things. But I think this is fascinating topically, and I just want to reset. Because I really am. My goal is to never be unfair. I never want to be unfair. I want to be honest, authentic, call it the way I see it, and then just ask questions about the process. That's the role of the fourth estate of media, to do that. And so. We talked about John and Karl in the early years, and I've got the list of Jazz draft picks pulled up. You guys didn't hit everything out of the park, as we already talked about, because no front office does. But oftentimes, whether it was Kevin drafting Hayward or you guys taking Karolinko in the second round, it felt like more often than not, whether it was in the draft or via trade or whatever, Scotty, Kevin, Dennis – able to make acquisitions that felt like they were your guys. I think the Jazz DNA, Dennis used to talk about Jazz DNA. And so you guys would go about your business. Paul Millsap's another example in the second round. You found a dude that just fits what you want to do. So far in 3.5 years, is it just this is going to take time for the new ownership group to establish what their culture looks like? Because as you referenced, 3 years ago, no first-round picks. make a couple of trades. They're bringing Ochai Agbaji, didn't work out. Walker Kessler has been the prize of that deal with Gobert so far. In year 3, he's evolving. But last year, Taylor Hendricks on the shelf, sadly, broken leg. Yeah, I still think he has a shot, but we'll have to see. He's out for a while. Keontae, mixed results. You know, some nights you're like, okay, you got some. Other nights you're like, is he a pro? I don't even know. Sensabaugh, I don't know, man. Maybe rotational at some point. Then this year it's Kyle Filipowski, who at times has shown a few things. Isaiah Collier, who's actually a guy on the roster that's played lead guard before, but Cody Williams, G League. To your point, none of the 6 players they've drafted over the course of Danny Justin doing their thing have popped so far. And I don't want to be unfair, but is it just going to take some time to build the culture so we kind of get the same feeling we used to get when you guys would draft a Paul Millsap or Gordon Hayward, where it felt like, okay, yeah, that's a Jazz guy?
Well, again, the current group that's making those decisions for the Jazz, they have whatever their game plan, their blueprint is. The kind of guys they want to get. I'm not privy to what that is. When I was with the Jazz, all the years that we had, whether it was Scott Layden or Kevin O'Connor or Dennis Lindsey, we had a specific blueprint in mind of the type of guys that we wanted to get.
Right.
Not just skill-wise, not just basketball ability and talent, but the type of people off the floor. Not just being a goody two-shoes guy, and sometimes that got blown up in the local media because we're Salt Lake, we're conservative community, so we need all these angels on the team or whatever. It wasn't anything like that. It was about guys we thought were good people who would come and work hard, who really had some kind of intestinal fortitude where they had pride in being as good of a professional basketball player as they could, so they would come to work every day and lay it out there and try and get better, and had the pride in doing that. I'm sure the current group of the Jazz has some measure of what they're trying, the kind of player they're trying to get. Maybe they haven't gotten them at time. Maybe there's some guys who are terrific young players in the league who the Jazz would say, well, we had that guy, that's who we wanted, but so-and-so took him 2 picks before us, or whatever it is. And so those things happen all the time. To your point, to this point, the one thing I would say, just in looking at the view from 30,000 feet, the Jazz had a very competitive team in place. Mm-hmm. When Ryan Smith took over the organization, they had a top 5 team, both record-wise, statistically, analytically, all that stuff. They had 3 All-Stars, if you count Mike Conley, but two main All-Stars who were young guys coming into their prime, and signed to long-term deals, multi-year deals at that time. So that ship was ready to go. That was moving out of the harbor into open waters. Okay, let's see what we got. And for whatever their reason, which I don't know, they decided in quick order and within really like an 18-month period that they didn't think that was going to be good enough to compete year in and year out, and so they got rid of everybody and they started over from scratch. And so that was a decision they made to do that. They've put the team in the position they're in now, which is struggling, which is trying to find young guys they can do. What's interesting to me is that they not only have young guys that they're trying to develop, but they also have young coaches that they're trying to develop. Will Hardy, obviously, is the second youngest coach in the league. Hadn't been a head coach before, and looks like he knows what he's doing. A really good guy, a really solid guy, a hard-nosed basketball mind, if you will. But they also have all of their coaching staff are young guys. They don't have any veterans who have been through the NBA wars. They don't have any guys who have been through the ups and downs and can kind of, leverage things a certain way. So they have young players and they have young coaches. And so sometimes that mix is going to have difficulty getting any traction and get anything going forward on any consistent level, because you just don't have those veterans either on the court or on the bench that can help you through those tough times like they're dealing with now. So that's the part that's interesting to me, and it's going to be interesting to see if that's the game plan they hold to going forward.
We'll switch gears coming up. Smitty is live on site for another 30 minutes. We're live today at the road home. All of this squealing and yelling you hear in the background are children excited to see Santa, who rolled into town and apparently took Richard Smith's shine.
I thought that was for me. I'm sorry.
Oh, I know. This was a peek into the psyche that I did not know was real. I mean, it's just a bruised ego. It's kind of sad. I'm not gonna lie.
Screaming and kids yelling and running around, usually that somehow follows me. But okay, Santa.
Smitty is jealous of Santa today, so stop by in person at 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale. Website is theroadhome.org/donate. You can also call us at 801-819-7300. This hour of The Drive is brought to you by Big O Tires. 'Tis the season for savings at Big O Tires, the team you trust. Save up to $200 after mail-in rebates on select sets of tires. You get up to $100 instantly on select set of tires now through December the 31st. Brand new tip-top healthy car special for $99.95, which includes a full synthetic oil change, wiper blade replacements, and more. You can stop in or schedule an appointment online to see how we can help you with your tire and service needs. Visit BigOTires.com to find a location near you. All right, 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. More with Smitty coming up next right here on ESPN 700. I suppose we could say in honor of Frank Layden, we decided to do a little Frank Sinatra Christmas album. You'll be with Frank tonight, yeah? You're going to be hanging out with Coach tonight?
Yeah, we're going to we go to on Saturday. We go to the holiday extravaganza down at Bravino Hall on Saturday night, yes, and with he and Barbara, yeah.
Very nice. So happy holidays to everybody. Richard Smith is live on site for another big segment. Live on site today is Live at the Road Home. It's one of my favorite things we get to do as employees of Broadway Media and folks on the radio side of things to help those in need this holiday season. We're asking for your donations at 801-819-7300. You can also visit, if you're at work, in front of your laptop or computer, theroadhome.org/donate. Looking for in-person donations, physical donations, new or gently used coats and hats and gloves, long johns, underwear, socks, what keeps you warm this time of year. And if you're looking for a place to sleep tonight, if you need shelter, you can call 801-990-9999, and then the team will direct you where you can get out of the cold. So, Smitty, we were talking last segment about culture building in pro basketball as a result of this article that came out about the Jets today. And I've always found this interesting. We were talking to Bowler about this earlier. In professional sports, your culture is set by your ownership group from the top down, and then you rely on people you hire to execute the vision of the culture. In college, on both the In college, on both the football and the basketball side, it feels like it's the head coach, doesn't it? They're kind of like the CEO, the face, the celebrities, really, because players come and go so much.
Well, that's who players go to play for in college. They go to play for Roy Williams, or they go to play for Mike Krzyzewski, or they go to play for Rick Majerus, or whoever it is. And if and when that coach leaves, for whatever the reason would be, a lot of times you used to see the players would also leave because they really didn't have that, affinity, if you will, for the school as much as they had for the coach they had that relationship with. And also in college, Spence, when you see the big time games on TV, you see Kentucky Duke, play, half the time the cameras seem to be on the head coach.
They're the celebrities,
on the sideline,
True.
And so even maybe more so than the players, because as you say, if you're one of those guys and you have longevity at a highly competitive program, you become the guy because the players just rotate in and out. Used to be 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. Now it's 3 or 4 months, and the guys are just coming in. I mean, the Demansa kid, last week,
5 months,
and they announce he's coming, but there's already they make very publicly known that he's only going to be here for 1 year, and then he's leaving for the NBA, and so that's already part of the plan. Which the plan never used to be that. The plan was we hope we get him, he develops, and we have him for 3 or 4 years, and. And I know, like, for example, I know, that Randy Ray, the longtime coach of Weber State, highly successful and got and groomed and developed Damian Lillard over a 4-year period with him before he became an NBA All-Star. He left earlier than he wanted to in the college game simply because he felt like, well, if I get Damian Lillard now as a freshman and he looks like he has some promise, he's not staying at Weber State his sophomore year.
Gone.
He's going to Texas, or he's going to Arizona, or he's going to Kentucky, or whatever it is, because of the new NIL stuff. So that's what makes it tricky at the college level as well.
Side note, non sequitur, how is Frank not in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame?
Yeah, you'd have to ask the people who vote. I'm not sure the overall record. Don't at that, and also he didn't have that longevity, at least as a coach. At the NBA level, he coached from 82 to 89, so that's 7+ years, where he had obviously success and turned the team from a perennial loser to a perennial winner and competitive team. Mm-hmm. But he turned it over to Jerry Sloan at a time where he felt it was best for him and for the team. And obviously Jerry had the success that he had over a 2-decade period, and then with Frank concentrating on the front office stuff, that's how the Jazz culture got to be what it was and how other teams and organizations around the NBA emulated how the Jazz did things, and most of it was because of somewhat of a family atmosphere. But and everybody preaches that. That's you hear that from all corners, which is kind of silly, really. It's a business, and if you don't produce in the business, then they move on to the next guy. And, but the Jazz had that atmosphere, but they also had a no-nonsense atmosphere, from whether it was Frank Layden and him setting the foundation, or whether it was Jerry Sloan, who the way he coached day in and day out with the team. The players knew, well, this is the way it's going to be. So we just have to figure that out. Now it seems like nowadays coaches a little bit too sometimes too concerned, in my opinion, and appeasing the players, because they're afraid otherwise the player's going to run to the owner and is going to complain, or they're going to make a public statement about wanting to be traded or what have you. And so it seems like the players have more control over those kinds of day-to-day things than they used to.
All right, moving over to some big picture topics here league-wide. One of the interesting conversations in NBA media over the past couple of weeks has been about the lack of ratings for pro basketball and how linear numbers are down. Now, Sports Media Watch did a really good piece on this. They released this week to provide some context. 52% of folks have cut the cord from cable over the past 5 years. So every product is down on linear numbers, even the NFL. Now, the NFL is only down 4%. Pro basketball is down 48% year over year. The opening night down 29% for last year. I wanted to get your take on one dynamic that I've heard people talk about, and that is every team plays the same way, trying to hunt threes, doing everything they can to hunt three-point shots. Now, I think teams go about that differently, and teams have different personnel. But is the game that much different than it was, where if you hear somebody say to you, Smitty, it seems like every night I'm watching basketball and every team plays the same way? What's your response to that?
Well, every team, it seems now nobody goes through the post. Nobody goes down low. Nobody uses height to it. Now everything is athletic, is running, jumping. Everything's 5 out. Everything's draw and kick. I'd say that a lot of teams try and play screen and roll or screen and pop, but most players don't set screens. Most players, slip screens is what we call it, where they go to screen you, and then when you get a step away from them, they bail out, A, because they don't want to get hit, first of all, but B, because they're either concentrating on trying to get the ball from the ball handler, either on a roll to the basket or on a pop to try and shoot a jump shot. And so you see everybody's playing that way now. The interesting thing is that the players who seem to play it the best, really, from my perspective, are the guys who have learned that outside of the United States. In other words, a lot of the European players, some of the Australian players, they learn how to pass the ball. They learn how to move the ball. They really know how to execute. In the U.S., young players in the AAU system, or even high school systems, the EYBL in the summer times, these summer leagues, the travel teams that the kids are on, if they're that talented, they don't teach them how to play, how to set a screen, how to move the ball, how to space out properly, and they also don't teach them how to shoot. Everybody just wants to run and dunk the ball, and so that's why when somebody shoots 38% from three, everybody says, wow, he's a really good shooter, but he's not a really good shooter. It's just because nobody else can shoot 38%. Right?
Comparatively speaking, yeah.
So it's interesting that our game has gotten to that point at the NBA level. It's really, to me, is most of it's a sloppy game. I think a lot of it's a lazy game because I don't think players want to play that hard. I think part of it is because that's all players do from the time they're 12, 13, 14. If they're identified as a teenage kid who, boy, he might have a chance to be a pro someday, which is silly projection, but some kids get that tag on them, and so they stop playing soccer, they stop playing baseball, they stop playing tennis, whatever it was they were doing as a young kid growing up, and all they do is play basketball 12 months a year. And so a lot of the research now is coming out in the Nordic countries, who have been looking at the skiers, the winter sports, or whether it's downhill skiing or ski jumping or skating and ice hockey and those kinds of things. They're not allowing their young kids to train in any of those sports for longer than a particular period of time. I think it's like three months, or it might be like 16 weeks or something like that. And then they're forced to take a break from that because their research is showing that their muscles, their bones, their joints are starting to disintegrate, are starting to break down more frequently, because when they keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, it's just starting to wear your body out. You didn't have that, when John Stockton and was playing, because he played baseball in the spring and he played football or ran cross country in the winter, in the fall, or whatever it was. And so it was really a form of cross training, but we didn't know it was cross training at that time. You were just playing different sports because you were interested in them. Now the young kids are told by their youth coaches, well, you can't play baseball and soccer. You have to choose one or the other, because we practice year round and we go on travel teams and we have a group that we try, and Spence, to me, the sad part about that is that it's not about the kid, the 14-year-old kid that they're trying to develop into the next LeBron. It's really about the coach who's got an ego, who thinks, I don't coach in the NBA, so I'm going to coach the little junior high team, and I'm going to coach them into the ground because I'm going to show people I know what I'm doing. And it's just, I think it's terrible. And that's why you see players in the NBA mid-20s starting to break down, having more. You'd think they would have fewer injuries because of all the training techniques and all the progression of medicine and of research and that kind of thing. But they seem to have more, right? I mean, back in the day, Bob Gibson used to throw 120, 130 pitches in a complete game for the Cardinals, and then 3 or 4 days later, he'd do it again. Now nobody pitches a complete game because they're afraid they're getting worn out, and they're not having that cross training experience as young kids like they used to.
So, a lot there, but the main thing that my takeaway continues to be this, and ultimately, if you want to understand issues in commerce, you follow the money. In business, you follow the money. And whether it's AAU coaches that feel like they get paid more, so they want better kids on their team, they're in bed with high school coaches. So if you're not on the AAU team as a 10-year-old, you're not going to be on the high school team, then you can't go to college. Like, it's all a system in place that was just really coming into its own when I was playing AAU in high school basketball. But you said something that I believe to be, and we all come at this on our own prism, our own unique prism, our own echo chamber. And the way you watch basketball probably has something to do with the way you were raised watching basketball. I was raised watching the Jazz and then the Knicks in the 90s, teams that played with precision and teams that played hard every night. And so for me, and my basketball experience of how I consumed the teams that I loved when I was younger, if I turn on a game and you don't care, I don't care.
Right.
So the biggest issue, in my opinion, Smitty, outside of everything else, is players who don't play hard every night. And that probably has something to do with the fact that guaranteed contracts now are generational wealth for 90% of these guys, whereas back then it was maybe 10, 15%. Yeah. Players actually needed to play for paychecks once upon a time, and if you need to play to feed your family, guess what you're going to do? You're going to show up and you're going to play hard.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And what happens, Spence, a large part of it is the guaranteed deal. The NFL has a small percentage of guys who get guaranteed contracts, right? The larger percentage of guys in the NFL are really independent contractors who are playing week to week. Mm-hmm. And you see that played out more so in football with the kickers, right? Some teams change kickers 2, 3, 4 times a season, if the kickers don't get the job done on Sunday, on Tuesday they cut them, and on Wednesday they're holding tryouts for another kicker. But also part of that is that those guys, when you're talking about care factor, again, going back to the point about playing year-round, since they were 12, 13, 14, these guys have been playing every week, every month, every year, basketball. So by the time they get to be 24, 25, 26, that's all they've been doing for 10, 11, 12 years nonstop. And so maybe they're not as excited to be playing tonight on a Tuesday night or Thursday night in Detroit.
And some of them don't even show up, Spence.
Yeah, but I mean, that's and sometimes, but you're exactly right. If you were playing like the guys were the other night, right, in Vegas for the NBA Cup, they're playing for $500,000, and I told Coach Layden, I was with this earlier today, I said that he was not aware of that. He said, I thought they got like an extra $15,000. I said, Coach, no, the guys who won the game the other night, they were playing for $500,000. He goes, $500,000? I said, that's what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Now, you can argue all day whether that makes sense, whether it doesn't matter because you got sponsors who are paying the money, or billionaire owners who are paying. It doesn't, they don't care. But that part of that, there's some kind of feeling in there that it's a little distasteful to me that's where you're at. You have to get the guys, as you're referencing, to care and to show that they want to play hard by saying, hey, Spence, you go out and get this game tonight, and we're going to give you an extra $500,000. That's what it takes. I don't know.
Well, and I know that younger NBA fans are probably laughing at the conversation because they've been a part of this NBA reality for a long time, and these are this is the generation of fans that pulls up their phone and watches House of Highlights on Instagram as opposed to watching a game. And I just grew up watching games, just what we did. Even if we weren't at games, I would be home, I'd watch games, and I come from this job through the prism of very much preferring to talk about games and talk about teams and growth and how the process is going. The problem is when you have a team that is unserious about winning, it's hard to make them topically interesting. But I did want to ask you this because I've been looking at the league, the landscape of the league, in the Oklahoma Cities of the world, and they're so fun and they're so good, and the Orlando Magics of the world, who have been able to kind of rebuild after a little bit, to see if there's anything we can learn about what the Jazz are trying to do. Now, the easiest thing about those two examples is to say, well, OKC has Shea and Orlando has Paolo, and those are both A-level guys. Houston doesn't really have an A-level guy. They've got a bunch of nice players, and Udoka has done a really good job. Jalen Green's our leading scorer. A lot of people love the Şengün kid, who's 18, 10, 5, and 2. Yep. So they have some good young players, but from a roster construction standpoint, the Jazz are where these three teams were 3-4 years ago. Sam Presti might be in a category of his own right now with what he's done with OKC, but is there anything that we can learn here in the market about what the Jazz are trying to do, juxtaposed to what these teams now have done?
Yeah, well, what the Jazz are trying to do, what they've done, but also, Spence, it's not anything new. They're not reinventing the wheel, and it's not any big secret. Look, OKC is a good, solid team. They've got very good coaching by a young coach who's insisted that they play defense, and they're one of the top defensive teams in the league. They got, some smarts, okay. You got to give them some credit, and some luck in the Paul George trade, because they get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is just coming off his rookie year. Nice player, okay, yeah, we'll take him in the trade, and okay, yeah, whatever. I think Sam Presti would be the first one to step and go, well, we didn't know he was going to be this.
Not like this, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you got him. You got Memphis, who's in second place currently with a mostly healthy John Morant. They got John Morant in the draft because they evaluated that correctly, and they knew that he had an NBA-type game. Houston got Jalen Green, who I think is going to be a very good player. They got Jabari Smith, who's a young player who I think is also going to be pretty good in a few years. They've got Şengün, who's probably better than they thought he would be. Really hasn't what you'd consider an undersized center at 6'10", but he has enough skill level to play the NBA game inside, outside.
It's fun to watch, that kid.
Yeah, and he's fun. So then you got Dallas, with Doncic, who's a generational talent, right? So you got those kind of guys, and then you go to Cleveland, which has Donovan Mitchell paired with several young guys that they went and got because they were bad, right? So they got Mobley, they got Garland, they got these guys who can fit in and are starting to grow, and got a bona fide all-star in Donovan Mitchell, who's leading them. You got the Celtics, who built their team the way they have, entirely on the idea of we're going to outshoot everybody from the three-point line, and they've got highly skilled guys, and it's working for them. Orlando was bad for a number of years, and they were waddling around, and they weren't getting much traction, and then they hit on a couple picks, but they hit on a couple picks. Why? Because they were bad enough to get top picks, right? So they had Jalen Suggs, and then they got Banchero, and then they made a good pick with Franz Wagner. And so now they're on an uptick with those guys. Milwaukee, generational talent, and Giannis, who no one knew Giannis was going to be Giannis when they drafted him, on and on. So the point being that the Jazz are just doing the same thing other teams have done. Mm-hmm. They're in that process. Is it going to flesh out? Are they going to get those guys to get better? Are they going to improve? Are they going to stay the course that they've set? And do they have the confidence that this is actually going to work eventually? Is anybody going to get short-circuited, whether it's the owner, whether it's the front office guys, whether they get tired that they're not winning so they blame it on the coach or whatever it is, or can they stick to their game plan and believe that we're going to get there, but we just have to stay the course, and that's the part that's going to be difficult for fans.
Got to end it there, my man. Great to see you, okay?
Hey, man.
Let's welcome in
Happy holidays.
To you as well. Let's welcome in Ryan from the Dish Professionals. More affordable options for your wireless internet, for your cable television, in addition to your cell phone bill. So give them a call at 801-424-DISH. 801-424-DISH. What's going on, Ryan?
Spence, thanks so much as always. This is just a great time of year to be in the dish business for us, because every single provider, I swear, has just been slapping up these rate increases. And we've seen pretty significant with DirecTV in October and the cable company. And then also you've got a pretty amazing increase with fiber and also with YouTube TV. Guys, this is something that I fully anticipate. This rate increase is just one of many that you're going to see, especially with YouTube TV. Guys, listen, if you get it cheaper, call Dish. We'll get you the best DVR. I have compared these things side by side. There is nothing that is faster than a Hopper. It auto-hops, it auto-records. You have the ability to pause, instant replay. Truly awesome for watching sports. Plus, it'll auto-record your team's games for you. Call us up and take the upgrades. We'll throw in the movie channels, get you credits for the next 2 years, and we'll guarantee that price. And so what, 2024, so 2025, 2026, so just about 2027 is when this promotion would end for you. That is a huge difference in your pocketbook. It'll save you money. Plus, how about we throw in Netflix free for the next 2 years? Guys, that's an awesome additional offer. And it's built in like a channel, so it's easy. And if you're not interested in the Netflix offer, I'll tell you what, I'll hook you up with a $200 gift card. This is such a good time, guys. Free money, free stuff. Call us up. Let us hook you up. Ask also about the internet offers. We can lower your internet bill. Guys, I have a half a dozen different internet providers available at my fingertips. And awesome promotions. One of them is you can get a free 50-inch TV, and it's like $50 a month for the internet. This is the same product I've had for the last couple of years at my house. It works fantastic. Don't be trapped by your cable company in the bundle, where they're like, oh, if you cancel this, your bill's going to go up. Call us. We'll make it go down. We'll upgrade you. Plus, I'll throw in dinner at JCW's. 424-DISH, 801-424-3474.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Pros, live at the road home. And we have Nick from Modelic stopping by. Nick, how are you, man?
How's it going? Good.
Tell me about Modelic. What's Modelic?
We're a web design and development agency here in Salt Lake City. We designed and built the Road Home website and the Mediathon tracker. Oh, Santa's telling me I'm naughty right now.
Yeah, Santa's rolling by, so
this is one of the best things I've done all year.
Really
what are you
cool,
talking about,
Yeah,
Santa?
it's really cool. So how did you come to be involved with the Road Home out here?
So we built their website years ago and their Mediathon tracker. So when you make those donations to ESPN, you can hop on over to theroadhome.org/mediathon and track the progress and the little horse race that we've got going there. We've got a team of developers working around the clock to field all those donations and make sure everyone is tracked and you know where the standings are. If we need to update the Zoom on the chart or anything like that.
Very nice. See, people like you fascinate me because I do not have that skill set at all. So I think it's a fascinating thing. So what would you say to our listeners about what you need this time of year, donations, financially, physically, otherwise?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, the Road Home is great at allocating resources. So if they just get enough money, I mean, they're looking at raising, quite a bit. I mean, they have the total track, too, about how much they need. And then they are so good at getting people what they need, be it food, clothing, access to shelter, warming centers, anything like that.
Right on. Well, Nick, thanks for stopping by, man. Really good to meet you.
Thank you.
On by. You can donate. You can donate in person if you're looking to donate something physical. We are looking for hats, coats, new, preferably gently used as well, gloves, socks, underwear, anything that will keep people warm this time of year. At the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center, which is 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale. Really easy to find. It's right off the exit. Put that address in your GPS. If you can't make it out, you can always call at 801-819-7300 or online at theroadhome.org. All right, we're going to do a little sports court with our friends Handy and Handy. We're going to do college football in the 5 o'clock hour. Dennis Haysbert stops by, very famous person who's in town for an event that we're going to tell you about as we broadcast live from the Road Home on a Thursday edition of The Drive. Don't go anywhere. Happy holidays. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. It is Sports Court time. We do it every Thursday, right about now. We're the good friends, Garrett and Preston Handy from the law firm of Handy and Handy. Gentlemen, happy Thursday. Happy holidays. How we doing?
Hey, Spence. Happy holidays.
Great to spend time with you, as we always do on this Thursday. And this story certainly caught my attention after it came out. A lot of attention back in the day 18 years ago on the Duke University lacrosse player scandal. And Crystal Mangum, who was the alleged victim back then, has come out 18 years later and admitted that she basically made the whole thing up. The time is yours. What should we know about this one?
Yeah, Spence, when this story hit this week, we thought, hey, this might be interesting to talk about more of not what's going on now, but more of a review of the legal issues of this. And as we know, this was a highly publicized case. It grows out of an incident where some Duke lacrosse players had a party, shall we call it, a get-together among the players, and Crystal Mangum, she was invited to come. She's an entertainer of sorts. Well, after it, Ms. Mangum went to the police and alleged that she had been assaulted and raped. Well, so what we have here is we have a situation of privileged white lacrosse players, a African-American woman involved Duke University, which is one of the paragons of privilege seen by a lot of people. It involved a politically motivated district attorney. The media caught wind of this. It was a firestorm. This is kind of a seminal case of where the media jumped on this. Duke University took action, and these three players, who were captains of the team, were all arrested and charged with rape, sexual assault, and kidnapping. Well, what happened after that was a firestorm. It ended up getting to the Attorney General about a year later, gets to the Attorney General of North Carolina, and they come out with a statement that says, hey, there was insufficient evidence. I mean, there was no physical evidence. There was inconsistent statements across the board of what happened, a lot of testimony, no physical evidence, DNA evidence. And he came out and he said, we believe these cases were the result of a tragic rush to accuse and a failure to verify serious allegations. And he says, based on this, we believe these three individuals are innocent of these charges. Well, in the meantime, what these individuals did, these three guys, well, they lawyered up and they filed lawsuits against the county attorney's office, against Duke University, and it resulted in a settlement that was a confidential settlement. And as you mentioned, Spence, here we are, 18 years later, and Crystal Mangum, she comes out with a statement this week, and it's all reported, interviewed, that she, in fact, lied about these allegations. And so is there any legal thing going on now? No, I assume that if someone wanted to, they could, she probably falls into the category where she lied, and they could be charged with some type of providing false information. But guess what? Crystal Mangum, she's in prison right now for murder.
Garrett, let's move it over to you. I'll never forget watching the press conference. My little brother went to Duke, had a high school teammate who went to Duke, and the captain of the Duke lacrosse team stepping up and saying, you've all been told some fantastic lies. And Garrett, 18 years later, it appears that was the case. Your turn to take a shot at this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of knew that, right? But I think Crystal Mangum coming out now and making this statement really puts it to rest, right, what happened. But on that issue of her being charged with anything, I don't think it's going to happen. There's, I think, like a 2-year statute of limitations on like a perjury charge or something like that. So it's way beyond that. And like Preston said, she's already serving time. If you haven't seen the 30 for 30 ESPN did on this, pretty good. Criminal education, very, very interesting. So crazy story.
Yeah, definitely worth your time. All right, let's move over to my guy, Oak. The latest, Charles Oakley, Madison Square Garden. I thought we were done with this, but apparently this holiday season, it's the gift that keeps on giving. What's the latest with my guy, Oak versus MSG?
Yeah, speaking of legal sagas that never end, this is one of them. It's been going on, I cannot believe this, but it's been going on for 9 years. It was 2017 when he got removed from his seat at Madison Square Garden, and it just set off this whole case. And we've talked about it quite a bit on Sports Court. And part of the reason we're still talking about this case and it's still going on and why it's been so slow going to get to this point is the case has actually been dismissed twice and now reinstated twice by an appeals court. So what's happening now, and again, why it feels like it's just barely getting going in reality, is there's some motions over some discovery. And so both sides, Madison Square Garden and also Charles Oakley, they're trying to get information out of each other. Oakley he filed a motion. He wanted to take more than 10 depositions. He wanted to compel Madison Square Garden to give up cell phone records of a bunch of employees. The judges denied those motions, and I thought it was kind of interesting. The judge kind of came out, and I appreciate this in cases where the judge said, look, the facts are relatively simple. We're talking about a assault and battery that happened on one night back in 2017. It's a single instance of this alleged assault. Look, can't we get this done in a more expeditious way? I mean, and it's rich coming after 9 years, but it looks like the judge is trying to push this case along.
All right, Preston, you're up, buddy.
Oh, just quick. I'm glad Garrett unwrapped that. I mean, Oakley. What does he want? That's my question. 9 years, what does he want? Dismissed twice, appealed it twice. He spent a lot of money. What does he want?
Good question. Probably somehow, some way, either respect, money, combination of the two, but probably time to get it done. Probably time just to let it go away. All right, let's move over to a college football storyline. Lane Kiffin, quote, shakedown, copyright lawsuit. Looks like Lane came out on the right side of this one. Fill us in. What's going on here?
Yeah, I love this one. And again, this is a case where I think a judge was very reasonable-minded, and he went right to the issue. Lane Kiffin came out with a post, kind of a motivational post where he showed a photocopy of a guy, Mr. Bell, who is a motivational guy. He had a win passage, and Mr. Bell has copyrighted his win passage, which kind of more or less says that winning is highly unusual and requires extraordinary action, and things that are seen in a lot of motivational speech. Well, what did he do? He sues Lane Kiffin, saying, wait a minute, this win passage is mine. It's copyrighted, so guess what? You can't use it. It's copyright infringement, and you got to pay me money. And the judge, he finally came out and he said, this is a bunch of crap. He dismissed it, and I love some of the things the judge says. He says, Mr. Bell appearing to have exceedingly high opinion of his literary value of the win passage. This extraordinary assertion with which Shakespeare, Tolstoy, and Faulkner might take issue. And he said, and you claiming that there's economic gain by Lane Kiffin coming out. One of the things Bell said is he goes, no, Lane Kiffin, he used my win passage. He wanted economic gain because if players out there saw this and saw how cool it was, they don't want to go play for Lane Kiffin. And, this guy, he's getting kicked out of the throat. And they mentioned he's had several lawsuits. This guy is a chronic suer of things like this, and he's out on his butt now.
All right, Garrett, your turn to take a crack at this one.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Lane, what Kiffin did was he retweeted this quote, right, and then gets sued for it. And that's something that happens all the time on social media, right? Some inspirational quote or whatever, and this one happened to be copyrighted. And like Preston said, he's just sitting there on the lookout and waiting for somebody to post it, and then he files a lawsuit. So he's good to see that this case get dismissed.
All right, I was glad to see the next one on the rundown because there's some local ties here. Jake Retzlaff is a junior college transfer for Brigham Young with 1 year left to play, maybe because Diego Pavia has been granted preliminary injunction against the NCAA, so he may be able to come back and play for Vanderbilt, even though technically he's out of eligibility, but he played his first couple of years in JUCO, and if he's able to do this, maybe other junior colleges players are able to as well. I don't mean to explain all of it because you're the experts, but go ahead. What's going on here?
No, that's exactly right, and I think it's setting a precedent for sure. And you have to start to wonder whether any NCAA eligibility rules are going to have any meaning. So what happened with Diego Pavia? I mean, he spent 2 years at 2 different junior colleges, and then was at New Mexico State, and then of course Vanderbilt, and beat Alabama, and he'll go down in Vanderbilt lore for doing that. And well, he's like another bite at the apple. He'd like more eligibility, and all of a sudden now, as a rising star, wants to take advantage of some NIL compensation that would be coming his way. And so that's what the lawsuit is about that's been filed. But with this preliminary injunction that's been granted, what's going to happen is he's at least going to get a play next year. His attorney said he's going to play at Vanderbilt, but yeah, it starts to wonder now, right? I mean, and I think it's a great point about Retzloff. I mean, does he get additional time? And I think it's safe to say that this is a case to really keep a close eye on.
All right, Preston, your turn, bud.
Yeah, additional time's important with the NIL stuff going on. I will throw a little twist on it. This is just a preliminary injunction, which essentially enjoins the NCAA from enforcing this rule and not allowing him another year. Too bad it's not being the ruling wasn't made in August, where he's playing and he could be they're enjoined and he plays his whole season. There's a chance that they appeal it, and in the next 8 months, there may be a switch with the judge, and who knows what's going to happen. But as for now, he's going to be a player on Vanderbilt's team and earning a good chunk of NIL money.
As the steward and author of the sports court bylaws, I am aware we're unable to have this segment without talking about schools suing the NCAA or conferences. So we must move over now to Colorado State and Utah State suing the Mountain West over penalties for exiting the league and going to the new Pac-12. Gentlemen, fill us in.
Yes, Spence, NIL and conference realignment and transfer portal have given us a lot of material for sports court, no doubt. And we saw this coming. Utah State and a few other schools left the Mountain West. They vowed not to. Everyone got together and said, we won't. And when they jumped, what happened? The Mountain West said, well, guess what? You owe us some big transfer fees in the range of $19 million to $38 million. So what's happened now? Utah State and Colorado State, and I don't know why Boise State and a few of the other schools aren't joining on this, but they're certainly cheering them on why they're not paying the legal fees. Basically what they're saying is the Mountain West, that this is unenforceable. They said, hey, you went behind closed doors with the other 7 other schools and made this decision that these amounts come in. They said, and really there's no legal basis for it, and there's no real formula or calculation why you're coming up. It's really to punish us and to compensate the other schools who are sticking around. And the other schools, the 7 schools, essentially like UNLV, Hawaii, and a few other schools, they've all said, hey, we are sticking around. We've signed this thing. Wink, wink, until someone else comes calling for us, right? But, yeah, they filed this suit because simply they don't think they should pay this money. And so we'll see what the response from the Mountain West is.
All right, Garrett, your turn, bud.
Well, these conferences, I mean, they've got to have some idea of who's going to be in their conference over the long term so they can negotiate these TV contracts. I mean, we're all pretty familiar with that storyline and how that all plays out. I mean, I have to think that the Mountain West kind of has the upper hand here. I mean, these are super sophisticated institutions, wide-eyed, entering into these contracts with the Mountain West over the long term. And, of course, things change, and they knew there would be consequences for leaving the conference. So, I mean, obviously, I think at this point they just want to mitigate the damages on what's going to happen and see if they can cut a deal and save a little money.
All right, last one for this Thursday, the latest on the GOAT, Michael Jordan. Preliminary injunction in the NASCAR case, and right now his airness is on the right side of the early ruling. Yeah, what's going on here?
Yeah, this is crazy, Spence. We talked about it last week, as most recently as last week. Be real quick. This grows out of claims of antitrust. That Jordan, his 2 racing teams, claim that unfair competition with NASCAR and as part of the charters that they have, these franchises they have. And they sued NASCAR, and there's been a lot of back and forth. NASCAR tried to dismiss it. And here's the really interesting part. Michael Jordan's team, they filed for a preliminary injunction, which essentially would say, hey, we can keep our charter and continue to race in the 25 season here, and you can't, because we're in this legal mess, can't stop us from doing it. Well, originally, it was denied. And lucky to Jordan, guess what happened? They filed it again, and we got a new judge on hand. And the new judge decided, you know what, I think you have met the burden showing that you're entitled to an injunction because you've shown that there would be irreparable harm and economic damage. So right now he's on the right side of it. A new judge comes down opposite what the other judge did, and Jordan's going to be racing this year, his 2 teams.
There you go. Garrett, final word is yours.
Well, although as we've talked about, the preliminary injunction isn't the end of the case. It certainly sends a signal to NASCAR that the judge is it looks like on Michael Jordan's side on this, and so I think it'll guide probably some future settlement negotiations or mediation. I mean, but we'll let you know.
All right, there you go. Before I set you loose, for any of our listeners who have legal questions this holiday season, how can they get a hold of you over at Handy and Handy?
Yeah, Spence, we love coming on here with you and talking about these issues, but we'd love to help anyone that's been involved in an accident, help them through the process. Give us a call at 801-264-6677 or jump on our website at handylawutah.com.
Well, thanks so much for the time. I won't be able to speak to you till after the holidays, so I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you, too, your presence on the show. And if we can be better, let us know. Happy holidays, guys. We'll chat soon, okay?
Great. Thanks, Spence. Happy holidays.
All right, Garrett and Preston Handy from the law firm of Handy and Handy. It's time now for Ryan from the Dish Pros. Save some money this holiday season. Who doesn't want to do that? Cable, wireless options, internet, too. All you have to do is dial 801-424-DISH. What's going on, Ryan?
This is a great time to take a look at your bills and see what you can save. And if you didn't notice, there's been some pretty good rate increases. I've seen almost all the providers have slapped some kind of rate increase. And, guys, lots of them are, well past 10%, more like 20% rate increase. And if you want to pay 20% more for the same old product or you want to upgrade, guys, it's not hard. It's easy. And the promotions, we just throw in and give you a ton of stuff, plus you pay less money. This is such a cool opportunity. Call us up. Listen, if you didn't know YouTube TV did a massive rate increase, well, they did. The cable company, well, that's just a constant. A couple times a year, that thing just starts to bounce up. And also, DirecTV and all the other streaming apps, you're just seeing it pop up. And fiber, gosh, 20% there. All these rate increases, right? Well, how about you call us and let us work our magic? I got a great promotion with Dish. It's the biggest, fastest DVR out there. Auto hops commercials. Guys, Dish has a 99% reliable guarantee. The product is fantastic because it no longer just relies on the satellite. It also, you can get your channels through the internet. So the redundancy allows you to have access to your content no matter what. And that's way better than any other provider can offer. Call us up. You get movie channels, 2 years worth of credits. The price is guaranteed for 2 years. And then, guys, Dish has updated their equipment. They have all the streaming apps available built into the system. And we'll throw in Netflix free for the next 2 years. Guys, that's worth more than $370+. If you're not interested in that offer, I can hook you up with a $200 gift card. Guys, this is just free stuff, money in your pocket. Plus, ask about the internet solutions we have out there. Fiber, $50 a month. Probably, here's the thing, your fiber bill went up 20%. I can lower it back down using the same fiber. You just pay your bill to a different company. That sounds crazy, but it's just that easy. Call us up, take advantage of that. Or I've got one offer where I can set you up with a free 50-inch TV, and that internet's $50 a month. So call us, 424-DISH, upgrade, save money, lower your bill, and if you call now, I'll throw in dinner at JCW. So call 801-424-DISH. That's 424-3474.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Pros. Coming up next, we have a celebrity on the show. Dennis Haysbert joins us. We're back to some college football after that. Say goodnight at 6 on a Thursday, live at the road home. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. Ave, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah. All right, really excited for this. The Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square is holding its annual Christmas concerts this week with a very special guest who will serve as the MC of the events. It's just a pleasure to have Dennis Haysbert on the show on a Thursday. Dennis, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, I appreciate the time. I have to say, you're on a sports talk radio show. I am a sports talk radio host and a big sports fan. So I first became familiar with you, of course, with your role in Major League way back in the day. And I know that sports are a big part of your family, and also you personally, as your brother, Adam Haysbert, played at Brigham Young a year ago. So. Back in the day. So I know that you're an actor known for a lot of things, but I actually want to know what role sport has played in your life, Dennis.
Well, it is sports have always played a large role in my life because that's what I do to stay in shape. I still play. I play a lot of golf. I used to play football, baseball, ran track. I used to fence a little bit. Now my principal exercises are Pilates, swimming, golf, and weightlifting. So I stay pretty busy.
Very nice. How did your brother Adam end up at Brigham Young back in the late '80s?
Hey, you know what? It's just like any kid. We grew up in San Mateo, California, and he wanted to get out of the house, and so. BYU came calling, and he thought it would be a very interesting challenge, which it was, and there you have it. It was there. I remember hearing the Pittsburgh game on the radio. I was working at the time. I was working on a movie. I can't even tell you what the movie was at this moment. Summer to Remember. That was it.
There you go.
And I was on set when I heard about the touchdown catch. And I said, all right, that's my little bro. And I had no idea they were going to go on and win the national championship.
An amazing year for sure. I wonder, from what I read about you, you were an athlete, as you referenced, and you had opportunities to maybe play sports collegially, but you elected to go the acting route. What kind of motivated you to do that as a young person, and did you foresee this unbelievable life you've built?
You know what? In a strange way, yes. I've always, like I said, I've always been an athlete. All my brothers were athletes. But I always loved movies, and I knew when I was 10 years old that I was going to be an actor. How I knew that, I don't know. God only knows. But I knew I felt it very strongly, and I knew it was something I was going to have to pursue.
See, I find that so fascinating, and honestly, I'm in awe of courage like that. And so, you already referenced, only God only knows, but did you always traverse through the space of the early days knowing that you were going to see it through to the other side to find all of this success, because you've done so many incredible things?
Oh, thank you. I really don't know what the question was in there.
I always find it fascinating because I think most people don't ever know what they want to be. And when I hear somebody new at the age of 10, like, did you always know? Because you chose a field that very few people find success in. So did you always have that confidence that if you kept going, you were going to be very successful at this?
All I knew, really, because I can look back in retrospect and say, yeah, of course. But I really didn't. I just knew that I loved movies. And the movies that I loved turned out to be classics. So I knew I had taste. How that was going to translate into working in film and television, I really don't know. All I knew is that that's what I wanted to do, and I guess it was a kind of a manifestation, if you will, that I was able to do it. Because I tell you, the only person I had that was really supporting what I was doing was my mother. And everybody else said, oh, no, you're too tall to be an actor. Oh, you're too this, you're too that. And I said, okay, we'll see.
Yeah, and you proved them all wrong.
Yeah, I just started getting into theater, and I got into theater when I was in high school. And it was a blast. And all during the time, I was, being made fun of while I was playing football. They said, "What? You're in a school play? What are you talking about? And then you're a football player." I said, "Yeah, I'm also an actor." So if I got too much heat in practice, I would make sure that whoever was doing all the jawing, I remembered them in practice, and I'd make sure I give them an extra hit.
Love it. I got to ask you this question.
The reason I say that is I was a defensive end.
Oh, there we go. Well, you're 6'5". You certainly have the size for it. When, like I said, I first saw you, I probably watched Major League 200 times. Did you have to work to learn? Because your swing looked so natural, and you were an athlete. What was the process like to learn how to, look like you were a Major League Baseball hitter in that movie?
Steve Yeager helped me a lot, but I've always been, like I said, I played baseball. I played Little League Baseball, Babe Ruth Baseball. I was a pitcher. I played first base, right field, left field, and I caught a little bit as well. So I love the sport. I think baseball is the perfect game.
Now, of course, before I set you loose, I want to hear about your role as a narrator for this upcoming Christmas special that I've been to with my family hundreds of times. I'm excited to see you. But from my seat, Sports Talk radio host, how do you get the voice, man? What do you do? What's the secret? How do you get that voice? I got to know.
I tell you something. I got it from my father. My father had a deep voice. He used it to be a great disciplinarian. All my brothers have, like the same kind of voice. But mine was weaned on a 1,300-seat theater in high school. We had the district theater where everybody in our district graduated from. So I got to hit that back wall with my voice every play I did. So it was developed in a theater.
Amazing. All right, Tabernacle Choir, Temple Square. You will narrate the Christmas concerts the 19th, 20th, 21st. What would you like our listeners to know? And how did you get involved with this as well? I'd be curious because it's such a perfect fit.
Well, they have a special guest who's coming in. I don't know how much of this is known, so I don't know how much I can tell you. But I'm not just narrating. I'm actually recounting a real-life story. And I'm telling this story to the audience, which I hope will have a very lasting effect.
Very cool. Well, look, this has been a pleasure.
I don't know how much more vague I can be.
Yeah, I mean, so just so you know, Dennis.
It's not just narration. It's,
yeah.
I'm going to be a storyteller, and I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay, I love it. So I have a press release in front of me, but because you're pump faking, I'm pump faking. I'm not going to give any more information out on air. But it's just a pleasure. I've long been a fan, and I'll be there to see you. So best of luck, and thank you so much for the time.
Oh, well, what night are you coming? Because we should stop by. I should at least see you and shake your hand.
I'll be there tomorrow night. I would love to see you tomorrow night for sure. I'd love to do that.
Excellent.
Thank you, sir.
All righty.
All right. Dennis Haysbert, the press release I have says he is narrating the Christmas concerts. According to what he has to say, he will be much more involved in that. They start tonight, and then it'll be tomorrow night, Saturday night at the Conference Center in Salt Lake City. If you've never been, I mean, obviously the Mormon Tabernacle Choir is insane. No, it's just the Tabernacle Choir now. My bad. And then Dennis Haysbert has one of the most powerful, unique voices out. If you don't know who Dennis is, you might know him from Major League. He was Pedro Serrano. He was the dude that was doing all the voodoo and hitting a bunch of home runs. Probably most known for 24 would be my guess. And then the Allstate guy. Like if you, when you hear that voice, you'd think you're about to hear an Allstate commercial. But that was really cool. I've seen a ton of his movies. He's been in a bunch of things, a lot of TV shows as well. Like I said, 24 may have been the television program that kind of put him on the map. He was on that for 7 years. Justice League, could keep going. And then, yeah, the commercial stuff is what a lot of people know him for as far as the Allstate commercials. He was the Allstate insurance guy for what, like 15 years? So appreciate his time. He will be in town, is in town to narrate the Tabernacle Choir Christmas program down to the Conference Center. All right, we'll catch a quick break. We're live today at the Road Home asking for your financial donations at 801-819-7300 or online at theroadhome.org/donate. You can come by in person if you want to donate gently used or new coats, hats, gloves, socks, anything to keep people warm this holiday season. They do a great job out here. This is my 19th year at the Road Home Radiothon. So, number 801-819-7300, theroadhome.org/donate, or the address to come by in person is 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah. All right, more coming up on the other side on a Thursday right here on ESPN 700. All right, special thanks to Dennis Haysbert stopping by. He's going to be narrating the Tabernacle Choir Christmas program in the Conference Center. Got off to a rough start with that interview, not going to lie. A little bit nervous. I've been watching that dude in movies and on TV for a long time and said like 3 things incorrect to start, but it was fun. Appreciate his time. Check him out at the Tabernacle Choir Christmas program down at the Conference Center. We're live today at the Road Home. We are asking you to donate if you can this time of year. If you're looking for something kind to do to the community, this is a great place to do it. The money goes where they say it's going to go. Some nonprofits can't say that, but helping families in need this holiday season, the phone number is 801-819-7300. Come by in person to donate new or gently used goods, namely coats and hats and gloves and socks and underwear at 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale. So come on by and say hi. If you're in need of shelter tonight, you can call 801-990-9999, and the team will direct you where you can get out of the cold. Going to bring in Gordon Monson coming up in just a little bit just to do some local college football, in addition to some Jazz and some NBA. Jazz are in action right now, and they're actually ahead, 12-9. Stay tuned. NFL Week 16 gets rolling with Thursday Night Football. Don't forget, we are your home of the NFL in this market. So coming up in just under an hour from right now from SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, is where we'll find the Broncos and the Chargers. You can hear that game on this radio station. The Chargers are a 2.5-point favorite. Utah Hockey Club picked up a win last night. They'll be back in action on Friday against Minnesota, so that's tomorrow. Tomorrow also FAMU, the school that was here in Salt Lake. Utes kicked their heads in a couple of nights ago. They're going to be in Provo to take on BYU. Utah is in action coming up against Iowa, Big Ten opponent, Saturday on the road at 4 o'clock, and the women are going to take on Arizona State. Patrick Mahomes has been cleared to start for the Texans, so little injury news if you're in your fantasy football playoffs. Coming up this weekend. All right, we'll catch a quick break live at the Road Home. Going to bring in Gordon Monson coming up next right here on ESPN 700. All right, final segment of the show today, live at the road home. We're back here tomorrow. Keep that in mind. It's always a 2-day situation, and 2 of my favorite days all year. So if you did not have a chance to stop by, I want to give one of my listeners, Lewis, a shout-out who just stopped by with a huge U-Haul full of gear. I mean, just the coolest thing. And you always see it out here this time of year at the road home. So if you're not in a spot where you can donate financially, understandable. People are on a budget. They're asking for physical donations as well. So new or gently used coats, hats, gloves, warm socks, things like that can be brought to the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center at 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale. That's where we're at today, and we're going to be back here tomorrow. If you're in a spot where you can donate a couple of bucks, $5, whatever it is, you can call 801-819-7300, and you can also visit theroadhome.org/donate. So love being out here. Appreciate everybody who called, donated, and stopped by. Before we say goodnight, I want to tell you about my friends at Prize Picks. You can make your holidays bigger and brighter with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. The app is very simple to use. You can pick 2 or more players across any sport and then pick more or less on their projection. And you can win up to 100 times your money. Now you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, and it's available to play in more than 40 states, including California and Texas, and, of course, here in Utah. Join now because this holiday season, Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30 million+ in rewards during Picksmas. You can download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700. You get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's promo code ESPN700 on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game all season long. All right, coming up, it is Thursday night football. It's the Broncos taking on the Chargers at SoFi in Inglewood. The Chargers are a slight favorite, a 2.5-point favorite, and that will kick off your Week 16 of pro football action. Don't forget, we are your home of the NFL here in this market. Now, tomorrow on the show, Jazz are playing tonight. We'll react to that. Of course, we'll react to Week 16, the opening night, Thursday night football in the NFL. We'll get you ready for the college football brackets. The CFP is now going to start to be unveiled with the first playoff game on Friday night between Notre Dame and Indiana. We're going to be joined by Ute great Eric Weddle, our Friday staple Chris Kamrani, BYU legend Blaine Fowler, Howard Beck, and Tony Jones for some NBA conversation as well. And that will do it for this Thursday drive. We'll say a very special thank you to Gordon Monson, Craig Bolerjack, Richard Smith, and the legendary Dennis Haysbert. Man, that was cool. For the sound you may have missed, go to the website. It's ESPN700sports.com. Make sure to download our mobile app and take us on the go. It's the ESPN 700 app available in the App Store or the Google Play Store. And finally, for what we do, afternoons, 4 hours every day, you can check out our podcast page, which is called The Drive with Spence Checketts. That's available wherever you get your pods. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things, give us all the stars. It does help. For Olivia, who's filling in for Porter, my name is Spence Checketts saying good night. Thursday Night Football comes your way coming up next, and we will talk to you tomorrow right here on ESPN 700.